the Activision deal, the Xbox Activision deal, and what the UK said that prompted the response of our previous coverage. If you haven't seen it, the Microsoft Activision Blizzard deal was responded to by the UK, and it prompted this response from Microsoft. Well, we're going to look at what the UK said that led to that response. If you like these videos, I put all of the info right here at the beginning so you don't have to go searching for it. I'm going to end the previous stream. We covered the latest Starfield news. It was a pretty big development update from the Starfield developers. It was a video with Todd Howard. If you want to see that VOD, go check that out. I'm going to bring everybody over from that video over to this video, and then we're going to jump right into the update, because this is a pretty big story and it's ongoing, and we want to give you all the good info right at the beginning so that way you don't have to go searching for it. This is a Reforge update. The UK CMA has concerns about the acquisition that Microsoft is trying to do. The Xbox Activision deal continues to get combed over. We've previously covered the response from Microsoft that was pretty strong as they tried to establish that they don't have a foothold in the market, but this is what prompted that response. If you like these quick updates, be sure to check out Reforge Gaming. That's the channel that I stream live from. So we pulled some of this from GameIndustry.biz. What exactly is the CMA? Who is the CMA? The Competition and Markets Authority from the UK has its concerns over Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Now, what is their role? The UK regulator is seen as the key element as whether this deal would be allowed to go ahead. The deal did not pass the initial phase of approval and has been sent to a second phase. That's where we are now, and the CMA's concerns are pretty lengthy. They have concerns about a number of things. Let me outline it for you. They have concerns first about the impact on Sony. Quote, the CMA is concerned that the deal will harm PlayStation and other multi-game subscription offerings as Microsoft may withhold Activision Blizzard content from them. The body is also concerned that Microsoft may use Blizzard Activision alongside other Microsoft services to out-compete rivals such as Google, Amazon, and Nvidia in the game streaming space. So what did they say? They said, quote, there is a realistic prospect of a substantial lessening of competition in gaming consoles, multi-game subscription services, and cloud gaming services. Now, they are worried about what they are calling a network effect. A network effect. The CMA points to the network effect of the console market, where a console with a lot of gamers attracts more content, which in turn attracts more gamers. And the firm is concerned that the acquisition of Call of Duty and any potential exclusivity on Xbox will create a sizable network effect on Microsoft's platform. So, what did they say about this? Quote, the CMA is concerned that having full control over the powerful catalog, especially in light of Microsoft's already strong position in gaming consoles, operating systems, and cloud infrastructure, could result in Microsoft harming consumers by impairing Sony's, Microsoft's closest gaming rival, Sony's ability to compete, as well as that of other existing rivals and potential new entrants who could otherwise bring healthy competition through innovative multi-game subscriptions and cloud gaming services. Some of this is starting to make sense now as to why Microsoft argued they don't have a strong position in the gaming console market. Microsoft admitted they were in last place in the console race, and they pointed to the fact that they're in 7th on PC and they don't even have a foothold in the mobile market. Now it kind of makes sense as to why Microsoft responded the way that they did. Subscriptions are also a part of the concern with the CMA. From the GameBiz article, subscriptions are a key part of the concern as the CMA believes it's possible, even likely, that without this deal, Activision Blizzard games may have come to other subscription services too. Quote, the CMA recognizes that ABK's newest games, Activision Blizzard, their newest games are not currently available on any subscription service of the day of release, but considers that this may change as subscription services continue to grow. After the merger, Microsoft would gain control of this important input and could use it to harm the competitiveness of its rivals. Not only subscription services, not only the cloud, but also streaming is a concern from the CMA. In terms of streaming, the CMA's concerns are around Microsoft's potential in this market due to its ownership of the Azure cloud gaming service, plus its PC operating system. It believes that there's a chance this, coupled with the ownership of Activision Blizzard, will give Microsoft a, quote, unparalleled advantage over other cloud streaming providers. This gives context as to why Microsoft said, listen, we don't want to harm the market. Our cloud services need the market to flourish. So they essentially said, if Azure is going to flourish and be embedded into the market, we can't harm the market. That would be counterproductive for us. Microsoft also went on record saying they have a business imperative to keep Call of Duty on all platforms, including PlayStation, and said they have even been counting on the revenue of Activision Blizzard titles selling on the PlayStation console, which means most Activision Blizzard content will not be going exclusive to Microsoft, if not any of it, given that they're counting on that revenue because Sony has such a huge share of the console market. Microsoft's response talked about how they have 150 million consoles in circulation, which means they are twice the size of Microsoft's foothold in the console market. So, what do you make of all this? Microsoft responds to this and basically says, we're not doing so hot. We're not going to hurt the market because we don't have a foothold in it. That should not be a concern in this purchase, but the CMA might not be convinced. Where do you land on this? Leave a comment below. Head over to Reforge Gaming where I stream live. And as always, hit subscribe and the bell button on this channel. And I'll see you in the next video. Well, now we understand why Microsoft was pretty ticked off and why they responded the way that they did, because the CMA is talking about it in a way that Microsoft feels is not conducive with reality. They're like, listen, we don't have a huge share in the market. We're not doing well in all of these places, whether it's PC saturation of our games or saturation of our consoles. This is why they have been almost cheering for Sony. I released a short this morning that talked about this. It's basically that, listen, they're basically cheering for Sony. They're saying, look how great Sony's doing. And what they're essentially doing, obviously I was being a little cheeky, they're not actually cheering for Sony. They're basically saying, listen, we're not a threat to Sony. Sony's crushing it, right? Thank you, Captain Steve, for bringing your viewers over here. Always appreciate that. Trying to navigate getting him on the podcast, guys. Always remember to support Captain Steve. Appreciate that very, very much. We are in our second show of the day, which means we need a second batch of likes. Over 300 of you came over to the new show. Smash the like button. The like ratio to viewer, it is super important in the live environment. So let's get to 200 likes as quickly as possible. When we don't do that, it really, really hurts the second stream. Also, make sure you're not on Top Chat. I'm on Top Chat right now. Let me switch. Life Flows with an 11-month milestone asking for 100 likes. I'm asking for 200. Smash it. All you lurkers, all you faithful listeners, it really, really helps us when you do that. There's raids now. Yes, you can raid channels. It's redirect. Like has been hit, sir. Thank you so much, Captain Steve. Anybody who came over with Captain Steve, we appreciate you very, very much. Now, what do you guys make of this? This adds some context as to why Microsoft was a little ticked. They're like, what are y'all talking about? They're like, we are not even on the landscape with Sony as far as console saturation, and we wouldn't try to hurt the industry. We need the industry to flourish for our cloud services to be, continuing to be profitable. 18 months from my man Baker. Smash that like button, he says. Thank you for the milestone. A $10 super chat tip from my man East Coast Overlord. As someone who deals with tech, Azure is so huge, it's not even funny. Their competitors are AWS and Google. Azure is more than just gaming. It's their entire server infrastructure, and it's huge already. Thank you for the 10 spot. I said that yesterday. I said, everybody starts talking about like Xbox earnings and Microsoft this. I'm like, Microsoft makes most of their money from like OS, Office, and Azure. Like that's where almost half of their pie comes from, right? Gaming is not huge for them at all. People that came over, this guy is great for news and news on games and gossip for men. Now, I don't know about that last part, but everything else, yes. ACM says, Sony are hypocrites. Bloodborne, God of War, not want to do cross-play. I could understand if it was EA, NFL level, but no one is stopping Sony from making an FPS. ACM, we have been through the Call of Duty argument 10 times over. Trying to argue that an established 20-year-old franchise with 11 studios on it can be rivaled by just spinning up a studio and making a game is just wholly uninformed and ignorant. I'm not trying to insult you, but attempting to act like Sony could just spin up a studio and create a rival FPS is laughable. One of the biggest companies out there has tried to do it with Battlefield and has failed miserably. Look at what happened to Titanfall 2 as an example. Great studio, great talent, great work, one of the best shooters in the market, hailed as one of the best shooters in the market, and look at what happened to Titanfall 2. That was the original guys from Infinity Ward. So there is instances in the market that is demonstrable of what you're claiming in the negative. You're claiming that Sony could just spin up a studio to compete or a game to compete. No. Titanfall 2 and Battlefield are on the landscape, proving in the market that what you're saying is not true. No one can get to the level of market saturation, size. Like, Call of Duty's endemic to the gaming market. There are peripherals for controllers. There are contracts with esports orgs. There are entire studios. There's 11 studios dedicated to the game. That's just simply untrue to be like, well, they could just make a game. They could make a game. No, not true. That's demonstrably false. We can look at the market and find instances to show that it wouldn't happen. It's like telling Microsoft just to make a better soccer or football game if Sony bought EA. Thank you. Exactly. FIFA and Madden are so endemic into the ecosystem of gaming that if you did that, it would be the same argument. It'd be like, wait a minute. No, we can't do that. We can't do that. How are we supposed to do that? How are we supposed to rival that, right? The difference is Sony is not taking games from other platforms. Well, they have paid for console exclusivity. Let's not pretend that Sony hasn't done that with games. The difference is Sony does it with games that are not endemic to the Microsoft ecosystem, like Final Fantasy, okay? Everybody wants to bring up Final Fantasy, and you just look silly. Like, the fact that journalists in the gaming world bring up Final Fantasy, they're espousing how ignorant and bad they are at gaming journalism. Because Final Fantasy is not endemic to the ecosystem of Call of Duty. It's not even a blip on their revenue radar. The fact that Sony makes up 48% of the annual purchases of Call of Duty is the point. That's the issue. That lack of context, that lack of information, so many of these gaming journalists are just click farming your hate. They're quintessentially, they are in essence YouTubers. They're just click farming, right? They're just click farming you. They're not giving you the full scope of the picture. They're not giving you good info. Gossip equals deeper dive into the back-end workings of the gaming world. Don't hear someone with a decent take like you, Reforge. I'd rather watch you and your take than IGN. That's high praise, Captain Steve. Thank you very much. We don't use gossip in that way. I know you're right. Yeah, you're not. I'm stateside. Gossip would be like me talking about the latest dish on some celebrity and who he's dating, right? We use that term a little bit differently. So that's why I said, I was like, what, man gossip? Question, says Sorcerer. Let's say that this deal fails and it does not go through. Does it then mean that nobody could ever buy this company? It would mean, Sorcerer, that Blizzard would have to sell off properties and studios instead of do the whole kit and caboodle. Does that make sense? They'd have to sell it off individually. They wouldn't be able to do the whole kit and caboodle because it would be considered too much of a market grab. You want my personal take? I think the Xbox Activision deal is going to go through. I just think they're going to make them jump through a lot of hoops. Eugene made this point yesterday. Today is about the response from the UK, and Eugene's like, wait till the EU gets involved, because they really don't like tech mergers. They're going to be a lot more persnickety about this. So I don't know. I feel like it's going to go through, but I think it's going to be a long road. I don't think this is going to happen in the timeline that Microsoft wants it to happen. How can you ignore that Xbox has stated Call of Duty will remain on PlayStation? Why are others stating opinions or statements that contradict what Microsoft has said? Silent Warrior, I can't believe that people are still clinging to that. I told people week after week after week, there's no way they will remove Call of Duty from PlayStation, and people kept telling me, well, that's just Microsoft saying right now. Microsoft is just saying that for right now. And then Microsoft literally comes out in a response to the CMA in defense of the Microsoft Blizzard Activision deal. They come out and say, no, we have a business imperative to leave it there. And they listed 4 things that would happen if they took Call of Duty off of PlayStation. They said it would alienate the players, it would tarnish Call of Duty, it would tarnish Xbox, and it would undermine the purchase of Blizzard Activision. Like, The Activision Blizzard deal would be undermined if they did that. Like, Microsoft's on record being like, we're not going to do that. Now, somebody might say, why did Jim Ryan cry about it? Jim Ryan's playing 3D chess, my friend. He made Microsoft say that. He made them come out on public and private record, basically say, we cannot do that with Call of Duty. What does that do? That creates market confidence in the PlayStation platform. Think about it. Let's say he's given private assurances that this will never happen. He needs the public to know that. He needs everybody buying, pre-ordering, or waiting to buy a PS5 right now to know that Call of Duty is still going to be here. He's playing three-dimensional chess. He gets Microsoft to go on private and public record in ink, in bold letters, to state to the public, Call of Duty will always be on the PlayStation. What does that do? Well, everybody who's thinking about getting a PlayStation 5 for Christmas and their ramp up for distribution next year, guess what? They're all now very confident in the PlayStation platform. Why would that matter? 48% of the people that buy Call of Duty buy it on the PlayStation, and all those people are now way more confident in the PlayStation ecosystem staying intact, which means they're way more likely to buy a PlayStation 5. Nobody's thinking about that. Everybody's just thinking in terms of console tribalism. Jim Ryan's a crybaby. No, he's not. He's creating a public dialogue to foster consumer confidence in the PlayStation ecosystem, which helps PS5 sales demand stay intact. No one's thinking about that. No, everybody's just thinking about, oh, he's just being a crybaby. No. He's actually done something that's quite brilliant. Quite brilliant. Think about it from this perspective. Microsoft is in the business of selling software, and I fundamentally think that's what this deal is about. I've always told people, you're not going to see a lot of Blizzard Activision titles go exclusive to Xbox because Microsoft's mentality is shifting from, we have to sell Xboxes, it's shifting to, we need to sell software and we need to get people on Game Pass. Okay? But what Microsoft doesn't want to do, they don't want to create consumer confidence in their competitor. So they're not going to come out on Main Street and start talking about PlayStation and Call of Duty. Now, Phil Spencer made mention of it in one paragraph in a blog, but they're not really wanting to promote their competitor. So what's Jim Ryan do? Jim Ryan comes out and says, I'm going to get you to publicly admit and also privately commit to never taking Call of Duty off our platform, because that creates market confidence in our ecosystem not being damaged. Shareholders are taking note of that. Public is taking note of that. People waiting in line to get a PS5, they're taking note of that. He's playing a chess game. He's not being a crybaby. Like, I think people are really misreading that situation. Now, it might sound like I'm really praising Sony. Hear this. I'm also really praising Microsoft. Microsoft's strategy here is fundamentally brilliant because they're not worried about the old school rules. Why? Because they've seen the future. And the future is cloud solutions, gaming everywhere. And what, pray tell, dovetails really well with cloud solutions and playing everywhere? Selling software everywhere. So they target one of the biggest kahunas on the block. They say, let's get Activision Blizzard. The market's a little bit depressed. They look real bad. There's another investigation coming. I just saw an article this morning about more bad things happening over there. So they're going to buy $70 billion acquisition, which is like 20% of the annual revenue of the global gaming market. They're going to buy a chunk of the industry and then sell it and bolster their services, bolster their Game Pass, bolster their software distribution. You think it's about selling Xboxes. Microsoft's talking about, we're not even thinking about that anymore. You want to buy an Xbox? Cool. You want to buy a streaming dongle? Cool. It ain't about that. It's about software, baby. We want you buying our games through your television. There's already a Samsung television that the Game Pass is going to be right there. Plug your TV into the internet and bam, there's the Microsoft ecosystem. So people that think that I'm anti-Microsoft, no. Nope. I have quite a big view of what they're doing and a greater respect for what they're doing than the people who think narrowly and think, oh, this is all about Xbox versus PlayStation. This is about Microsoft versus Sony. It's not about that. Phil Spencer, a couple of years ago, did an interview where he said they viewed their true competitor as Amazon and Google, and you're starting to get a glimpse into how that's going to met out. Phil's not looking at Sony and, oh man, they're a real threat to us. They're our true competitor. Nope. In the world of console distribution, sure, they're beating the crap out of Microsoft. Microsoft admitted that. They're twice the size of us. They have 150 million consoles in circulation. Why do you think Microsoft's so in tune with how many consoles Sony has in distribution? Because they can't wait to sell software on a foothold in the market that is that big. They can't wait. Because the other big kahuna in the room as far as console distribution is the Nintendo Switch, which Nintendo's kind of persnickety. So selling software on Sony, especially software that's endemic to the Sony ecosystem, like Call of Duty, that's big money. That's big, big money. So they're looking at that. They're looking at the Sony landscape, and they're thinking so much bigger than we need to try to sell more pieces of plastic than them. So this is one of the reasons why I think people come in here and they think I'm like anti-Microsoft and pro-Sony. The only issue I was concerned about was market-restricted behavior, because that's bad for all of us. Even if you love Microsoft, that's bad for you. This is assuming that people will want their games the same way they want their movies. I can't bet on that horse just yet. Microsoft has a bigger footprint than Sony, therefore Microsoft will begin to drop prices in certain portions of the market to bring over more consumers. Sony may win battles, but not the war. Well, as far as footprint goes, if you're going to compare Microsoft to Sony, you're basically comparing. I'm trying to think of an example. You can't make that comparison. You're comparing companies that don't line up. If you want to compare the Sony gaming division and the Microsoft gaming division, Sony kicks the ever-loving snot out of Xbox. Now, if you want to compare Microsoft and Sony at a corporate level, well, now you're making an unfair comparison, because Microsoft sells software, OS, and Azure cloud services. Sony is literally one of Microsoft's biggest customers because they use Azure. Like, Sony literally pays Microsoft for the Azure cloud-based services. So comparing them in that way is silly. Like, if you're going to claim that Microsoft has a bigger footprint in the gaming world, Microsoft just said, no, we don't, in their response to the UK. So if you're just tuning in, the Xbox Activision deal continuing to unfold here. The UK's response and concern, the CMA, is why Microsoft's response was what it was yesterday. We went over that. So if you missed that coverage, you can go watch that VOD. We read through Microsoft's commentary about how they don't really compete with Sony. They're not even close to their size. They don't want to hurt the market because their cloud-based services need the market to be intact. And they have an ongoing business imperative to not just keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, but they have gone on record as to saying they are counting on the revenue from Blizzard Activision titles being sold on the Sony ecosystem. So if you thought that the Blizzard Activision deal was going to lead to a bunch of Xbox exclusive games, that's not going to be the case. You'll get stuff, you'll get like season passes and cosmetics and maybe things early, but you ain't going to get a bunch of exclusive games. They've made that point pretty crystal clear. A $10 tip from East Coast Overlord. Steam Deck, Xbox, and PS5 are all unprofitable. Switch is a mobile phone. Microsoft is looking to sell subscriptions to Windows as early as Windows 12. The future is written for those who want to see it. Well, the PS5 is actually profitable. It's one of the first consoles to sell at a profit and not a loss. There's a whole financial breakdown of that, so that's actually not true. Calling the Switch a mobile phone, that's a weird take, bud. I hate saying bud. I didn't mean to say that. That sounds condescending. That's a weird take, bro. Switch is so good. Switch market saturation's bonkers. Like, I think, don't they make money per Switch as well? Didn't we look at a breakdown? Don't they make money per Switch? I don't think, East Coast, I don't think you're completely wrong. I think at one level you're right. Like, the future is cloud-based, subscription-based. Yes. But I don't think it's going to be that tilted, like, oh, everything's going there. I don't think so. You will, Lono. You'll get exclusive new IP. He looks at Starfield. No, Mike. Pete Hines just got a promotion to the head of distribution at Bethesda, and he said that we might see games like Starfield on other platforms. He basically said that's not written in stone. And I continue to say that I think Starfield lands on PlayStation a year later. I think it does. Switch isn't a phone. I can message my friends on my phone. Switch isn't that advanced. I mean, the Switch is rivaling PS3 market saturation. So you got to be careful with knocking the Switch. The Nintendo Switch market saturation is absolutely dizzying. It's dizzying. This deal is more for King, not for COD. It's just core gamers don't see it that way. Yeah, I disagree with that take, Sofa. I've had people come in and say that before. It's not just for King. King is huge in the mobile market, and the amount of money that Microsoft will make from King once they own all that property is going to be amazing. But homie, the amount of money that Call of Duty generates on Warzone and COD Mobile alone, I don't know if King touches that. I'd have to see some breakdown of King's properties and what kind of revenue they generate. But Call of Duty Mobile and Call of Duty Warzone are insane with respect to revenue generation. So I'm not sure where King lands on that slice. They definitely want King, but the deal, they didn't drop $70 billion on Blizzard Activision for King and not everything else is gravy. They want all of it. Right? They want all of it. They're in the business of software distribution. They're not in the business of selling consoles. Sadie and Phil admitted that much. I need an actual reference. Sofa, you got to understand, when you're going to come in here and make claims like that, we do copious amounts of research. So if there was an article and an interview where Phil Spencer said, we're mainly doing this for King, we would have covered it. I've not seen any articles indicating what you're indicating. It sounds like you're reading a lot into a single question and answer that might have been about wanting to break into the mobile market. King is the biggest moneymaker for ABK. So King makes more money than Call of Duty Mobile? If you combine Call of Duty Mobile earnings and Call of Duty Warzone earnings, King beats it out with what, Candy Crush? I'm not denying that King literally prints money. I'm not in denial about that. But Call of Duty is just bonkers as far as revenue creation, and a lot of it's like Call of Duty Mobile surpassed Call of Duty Warzone in like one day with respect to monthly earnings. Mobile passed it in a day. King was up there around $1 billion. Wheezy says it wasn't even close. But are there interviews that indicate they're mainly doing this for King? I've not seen that. I'm not surprised that King is leading in the revenue generation because mobile's insane. But I've not seen interviews to indicate that Microsoft did all this mainly for King. Call of Duty was the highest selling PS5 game last year. Don't underestimate the moms on Candy Crush. Well, mobile games like Candy Crush are probably beating Call of Duty Mobile because Call of Duty Mobile doesn't have like rhythmic spending the way those games do. Sorry, what I mean to say is the mobile division makes the most. Okay. I'd be interested to see how Call of Duty Mobile stacks up against the King property. I'd just be interested to see the comparison. Yes, there is. I think Satya literally said it. You got to point me to an article. I feel like we would have covered that. Now, immediately we start talking about Call of Duty, and some of that's on Sony, right? Sony throws that out into the dialogue. I was like, hey, Call of Duty's too big. You can't make Call of Duty exclusive. Listen, if you guys are just tuning in and enjoying the coverage, if you've never been here before, this is Reforge Gaming. I am a safe for work broadcaster, highly interactive. Hit subscribe so you can interact with me in the chat. What do you think about what we're saying? Being safe for work means I'm not swearing, so you can throw me on in the background of your day. Also, do me a favor and smash the like button. We should have 300 likes by now. COD's always a top-selling game. Vanguard sold less than ever, and it was still beating everything else by a lot. Don't forget Diablo Immortal. Plus the development cost for COD. Look it up. No. Don't tell me to look stuff up. If you come in and make a claim, point me to the article. I'll go look for the article, or somebody in the Discord can go look for the article. I'm not going to interrupt the talk show to go on a fact-finding mission. I don't need it proven to me that the mobile makes more money. I want to see an interview where Microsoft is on record saying they primarily did this for mobile. They don't care. They all the other products are basically thrown in, right? Like, I want to see that interview. That's what I'm interested in. It's not surprising to me that mobile makes more money, right? That's not that shocking. Now, I thought Call of Duty Mobile would have made more, so I was wrong on that. But I want to know, where's the interview where they said, yeah, we mainly did this for King. We didn't really do this for the other stuff. That seems like a weird thing to publicly say. Call of Duty Mobile's revenue is around 21 million. Candy Crush is $1 billion. Jiminy freaking Christmas. Jiminy Christmas. That's insane. So basically, Call of Duty Mobile is a fifth of what Candy Crush does. That's bonkers. This frickin' mobile games, bro. Those mobile games. King is crushing everything else. I mean, you didn't have to convince me about all the other titles. If you would have come in here and told me King outdoes all the other Blizzard Activision titles, I'd have been like, oh yeah, for sure. I thought Call of Duty would have beat it. Because if you combine Call of Duty Mobile and Warzone, is it even close if you combine those two? What's Warzone do annually? Microsoft's pursuit of Activision was all about mobile and PC, Phil Spencer says. I don't want to headline Paul. I want to see the interview. My eldest aunt's been playing Candy Crush for over a decade. I think we live so far away from casual mobile gaming and spending, we just don't understand it. Okay. Here's the interview. I want to see the phrasing here. I want to see the phrasing, because that really changes this. That changes my entire view of it a little bit. Sony's obviously concerned about their ecosystem, so Call of Duty kind of overtook the dialogue really, really early on. Speaking to Bloomberg, Spencer says that the biggest gaming platform on the planet is mobile phones, adding that 1.5 billion people play games on mobile devices. The executive went on to say that Microsoft regretfully doesn't have much of a presence on mobile. They actually responded to the CMA in their defense of the Microsoft Activision deal. They said that. They're like, we don't have a mobile presence. So that's consistent with things they've said before. Here's Phil Spencer talking. He says, we don't have a lot of creative capability that is built. Let me go into a scene for you. That has built mobile games. We really started the discussions internally, at least, on Activision Blizzard, on the capability that they had on mobile and then PC with Blizzard. Those were the two things that were really driving interest. I think that's a fair interpretation of his comments. I think that's I think you're making a fair interpretation of his comments. We didn't cover this. We might have skipped over this because mobile's tough to cover in our environment. We tried covering mobile once and it didn't go very well for us, like the mobile industry. Yeah, I think that's a fair. I think this right here, he says, those were the two things that were really driving our interest. So he's basically saying we didn't have a mobile foothold, and then they also have PC. So, yeah. He's basically saying, look, what sparked this, what started this, what drove this was we don't have any mobile presence. And it's not surprising that PC's also thrown in there, because Capcom and Sony both said similar things. They're like, listen, we're changing our strategy because projections about PC gaming growth for the next couple of years is insane, and we need to be over there, right? Sony went from never having any of their games on PC to Spider-Man's on there now. Like, that's insane. I didn't even think that was ever going to happen. I thought Spider-Man was going to be sort of like sacred, but they brought that over to PC. Everyone's focusing on COD and overlooks the mobile part. Well, the mobile part doesn't matter to Sony. And the mobile part doesn't really matter to the ecosystem, does it? Who cares if they suddenly own King? Oh well. It's not going to disrupt an existing ecosystem. It's not going to disrupt an existing platform or a competitor. Does that make sense? It's not like suddenly Microsoft is potentially taking something from a competitor. The reason Call of Duty overtook the dialogue is because, well, if they take that, then that's kind of a big deal, isn't it? Like, right? Or the network effect, right, Sinos? Right, because that's something that the CMA is worried about. It's right here. Where is it? The network effect. The CMA points to the network effect of the console market, where a console with a lot of gamers attracts more content, which in turn attracts more gamers. And the firm is concerned that the acquisition of Call of Duty and any potential exclusivity on Xbox will create a sizable network effect on the Microsoft platform, right? So this is the quote from the CMA. The CMA is concerned that having full control over this powerful catalog, especially in light of Microsoft's already strong position in gaming consoles, operating systems, and cloud infrastructure, could result in Microsoft harming consumers by impairing Sony's ability to compete, as well as other existing rivals and potential new entrants who could otherwise bring healthy competition through innovative multi-game subscriptions and cloud gaming services. So, having full control over this powerful catalog could create a problem. But see, this is why Microsoft responded the way that they did. Because the CMA says, in light of Microsoft's already strong position in gaming consoles, operating systems, and cloud infrastructure, so including game consoles, that's why Microsoft was like, we're in last place. Right? Like, Microsoft openly admits we're in last place. Yeah, we don't have a particularly strong foothold in the console market. If you guys are just tuning in, we are once again covering the Xbox Activision deal, the UK's worry, concern, and response. We covered essentially Microsoft's response yesterday, right? Microsoft said, hey, we're not really strong in the console market. We're 7th on PC, and we don't have a foothold in mobile. And essentially what Microsoft was saying is, we're not a threat if we suddenly get this amount of property. Now, the reason I don't necessarily think Microsoft's response lands on the CMA's concerns is the CMA is primarily concerned with if you suddenly have total control over this massive catalog of games, that could give you sway over competition. It's not like you grew that and did that, and now all of a sudden you have these very successful properties. You're buying control of said properties, which is a potential threat to the market. That's seemingly the CMA's concern is this could create a network effect for your control, which could hinder other people growing or entering the market. I don't think it's about current. Imagine if Disney bought Netflix. Right, that's the idea. It would be like, well, we currently don't have any of this stuff. Well, yeah, but you're trying to get it. Like, that's fundamentally the question, right? Okay. I was like, what is it? Well, I'm feeling weird. I think I ate too fast. Trying to get their hand on everything. Right. And Microsoft is basically saying, even if we suddenly buy all this stuff, we don't currently have a strong foothold, so it's not a problem. And the pushback would be, but you're trying to buy a foothold, and that foothold could pose a problem. Like, that's the long and the short of it. If you guys are enjoying the coverage, there's a lot of people here. This is a strong second stream. Thank you so much for being here. Smash that like button if you enjoy my content. Those of you that lurk, those of you who are already subbed, make sure you're smashing the like button if you're enjoying the breakdown. Just tuning in, what did the UK say? The UK essentially said, we are concerned about a network effect if you get a full control of this catalog. We're also concerned about the cloud-based solutions and the cloud market, as well as the streaming market, and Microsoft suddenly having this entire thing would not just impact Sony, but it would impact other aspects of the gaming market. There's other aspects of the gaming market. There's streaming, there's cloud, there's what they call the network effect. They're concerned about all those things. So the Xbox Activision deal is not just about Sony and Call of Duty. That's sort of been the headline, right? Is Call of Duty going to be an Xbox exclusive? Like that's been like the big dialogue. Well, Microsoft responded to the CMA's concerns, and they said that Call of Duty will continue to be on the Sony platform. They have a business imperative to keep it there. They went further than that. They said they're counting on the revenue that they'll get from selling Blizzard Activision property on the Sony platform. Because they said all this on the heels of saying, listen, so Sony has 150 million consoles in circulation. We're in last place. Like, we're not a threat to them. We still want to sell our property over there. If we get this property, we're going to sell it over there. You know what I'm saying? Guys, we really need that like ratio. I'm sorry to do it. I really am sorry to hammer away on it. When we have this many viewers, we can't be slacking on the likes. YouTube actively tracks that. I need 40-something more likes. You guys have got to help me out here. If you're enjoying the coverage, if you're here on a regular basis, I guarantee you there's 40-some-odd folks who have not hit that thumbs up yet. Didn't the other companies give up on cloud and streaming so they won't deny this deal because Microsoft are taking cloud seriously? PlayStation were in cloud before Xbox. Well, what's funny is there are interviews from a while ago. Where Phil Spencer basically said, we don't view Sony as our true competitor. They view their true competitor as being Amazon and Google. Because in the realm of cloud-based solutions and cloud-based gaming and subscription services, they feel that that's the future. Right? But Phil is caught in a lie saying he's going to remove Call of Duty. What are you talking about? He's never said that. Where did Phil say that? Sony had cloud capabilities before Microsoft, but they didn't invest in it. Can you please comment on the true headline? Sony saying they don't want it on Game Pass even if it's on PlayStation. That was a red herring. That was Sony telling you what they're really concerned about. Well, I think the CMA expressed concern in that as well. Yo, thank you, Big O, for renewing your membership. Welcome back in. 5 more likes, guys. We're almost there. Just 5 more. We got to hit that 300 milestone. Yeah, I do think that the CMA is concerned with that as well. When they look at subscriptions, right here, the CMA recognizes that ABK's newest games are not currently available on any subscription service on the day of release, but considers that this may change as subscription services continue to grow. After the merger, Microsoft would gain control of this important input and could use it to harm the competitiveness of its rivals. Yo, Kyle with 5 months, welcome back. Not a huge Marvel fan, but that shirt's dope. Oh, thank you. If you guys ever like my shirt, always remember to support our sponsor, 80s Tees. Use the shirt command and then use my code over there. Code LONO will get you 30% off over there on 80stees.com. In 3 years, Phil said it would be exclusive. He did not say that. That is absolutely 100% false. That's never been said. That's not documented anywhere. That's a lie, bro. If someone told you that, they were not telling the truth. If you're in here saying that, you're not telling the truth. That has never been stated. They offered PlayStation a 3-year extension on the existing contract, and Jim Ryan said it was woefully inadequate. But Phil and Microsoft are both on record officially stating they have no intentions of removing Call of Duty from PlayStation. That was the letter Jim got. False. You are not representing that accurately at all. That is not what the letter said. The letter offered them an extension of 3 years on the existing contract. It did not say, we're taking Call of Duty away in 3 years. You're saying things that are not true. Phil qualified that numerous times and said, our intention is to leave Call of Duty on PlayStation. That letter did not state that. Phil basically said 3 years before you need to make a new deal. Right. They basically want to be able to renegotiate how much they get from that deal. Yo, Mark, a word with a 3-month milestone. Welcome back. Reforge Strong, thank you, sir. You have to think about something. The 3-year extension was basically going to get them to like 2027, 2028. That's around the time they'll be ramping up for probably another generation of consoles. That's at least some of the guesstimate, some of the estimate, right? And the reason that he said what he did is it was like around that time, Microsoft's going to want to be able to renegotiate the contract for Call of Duty. I believe Phase 2 is November, Wheezy. Big O with 11 months. That's a great milestone, almost a year of support. He says, in my opinion, Game Pass poses a threat to the industry. I personally enjoy it, but over time, it'll affect the other platforms and the industry. They were wishy-washy on Elder Scrolls 6. They have not been that way with COD. I really didn't think that Sony also said no hardware advancements that PS can't have, like DX12 lighting features. What are you talking about, Tony? Sony just don't want to evolve, but you see they're starting with putting stuff on PC. Sony gave them this lead in innovation by being stubborn, and that's all them. What lead in innovation did they leave to Microsoft? The CMA surely hasn't gone over what Brazil put out in the public square with third-party publishers debunking Sony's claim that there is competition with other games that rival COD. No, that hasn't been debunked. That's false. And Brazil's input is silly. Brazil's input is silly. The CADE's input is absolutely laughable because Microsoft doesn't even agree with what they said. Like, when you come out and say what the Brazilian government said, it's laughable when Microsoft says the exact opposite. Like, it's demonstrably false if Microsoft literally says the exact opposite. They're like, yeah, no, we have a business imperative to leave Call of Duty on the PlayStation platform. Oh, and we're counting on the revenue of Blizzard Activision titles continuing to be sold on the Sony platform. Like, Brazil's looking silly right now. And if you're going to try and claim that there are third-party publishers debunking Sony's claim, what third-party publishers have claimed they can make a game to rival Call of Duty? Because the market can demonstrate that that isn't true. There's evidence in the market to demonstrate that's false. Battlefield and what it's tried to do, and Titanfall 2. Games that tried to rival Call of Duty, they had money, they had backing, and they failed to do it. They have failed to truly compete with Call of Duty. If Titanfall 2 can't do it, and if Battlefield can't do it, claiming that, oh yeah, you could just spin up another game, spin up another shooter and compete, it just is ignorant. It's ignorant of any market analysis that's available. Nobody with even the most modicum of an education of the gaming world would say that. Brazil never said anything that was opposite in what Microsoft said. Sure they did. They said that if it all went exclusive, it wouldn't lead to foreclosure of Sony. Like, number one, that's a red herring. It was never about what would lead to foreclosure of Sony. It was about this will damage Sony. Like, Brazil's commentary is silly. Brazil never said that. They just said that even if Xbox decides to make it exclusive, PS would not risk foreclosure. Right. So they look silly because that's not what was in question. Sony never came out and said, if this goes exclusive, we have to shut down. They never said that. They said, if this happens, this is market restrictive. We make up 48% of the purchases in Call of Duty. I'm so tired of retreading with this with people who don't seem to understand how off the mark Brazil is on this. You didn't read their documents? I know, you want to continue to claim I didn't read the documents. Every article I read on it quoted the CADE as saying, if everything goes exclusive, it's still fine because Sony will not foreclose. That's not what was in debate. That's not what they were supposed to be analyzing. That they were not analyzing whether or not exclusivity of Blizzard Activision properties would lead to Sony foreclosure. That wasn't what they were examining. They were examining on whether or not it would hurt, whether or not it would be market restricted behavior, which leads to the damage of a business and the restriction of what consumers can buy. If it damages competition, if it's anti-competitive, that's what they were supposed to be investigating. That's what they say. Damage to Sony to the extent that they are unable to compete. But that, again, is not what they were supposed to be investigating. Like, think about it. The CMA is meticulously lined up all the ways that this could hurt Sony. Because that's what they're supposed to be investigating. They're not supposed to investigate whether or not Sony's business structure is so dependent on Blizzard Activision that if they lost those properties, they'd have to shut down. That's not what's being discussed. From the beginning, the CMA is looking further than just Sony. It's not about Sony. Yeah, even some of their concerns is documented in their response that I pulled from the GameIndustry.biz article. They're concerned about PlayStation, but then they go on to say, we're also concerned about the network effect of what this would do for Microsoft's control of the market. They go on to say that this also plays a role in subscription services in the market. This also plays a role in streaming services in the market. The CMA is looking at more than just Sony. They're looking at the market itself. It was a direct rebuttal to Sony's claim that COD would harm Sony. Nintendo Switch does not have COD, and it's doing fine. My gosh, so many people make that point, and I really, really wish you could see how absolutely bankrupt saying that is. You totally ignore the facts. Nintendo Switch is fine. Oh my gosh. That is such a laughable point. I'm like, we've been on this flat tire for weeks. PlayStation makes up 48% of the purchases of Call of Duty. It's endemic to their platform. Half of the people that buy Call of Duty buy it on PlayStation. Invoking Nintendo makes you look like a clown. Call of Duty has no endemic relationship to the Nintendo. They've not grown a consumer base to the degree that Sony has, interwoven with the Call of Duty property. Okay? Now, you can't respond to that and say, but if Call of Duty went exclusive, Sony wouldn't have to shut down. Didn't say that. Well, Nintendo Switch is fine. Completely irrelevant red herring. Like, these are just fallacious ways to respond. It's an argumentative fallacy to invoke Nintendo because it's a false equivalency. It's an argumentative fallacy to invoke, oh, well, they won't have to foreclose. That's a straw man. No one's stating that Sony would have to close down, and no one's invoking the fact that, like, any title made exclusive will hurt us because then you could invoke other platforms. Space Dovahkiin with a $5 tip. Brazil clearly stated that PlayStation achieved their power position buying exclusivity and have held it for more than 2 decades. That's how the market behaves. Thank you for the $5 tip. It's not bankrupt. It's about competition in the market, not Sony PlayStation as a company. Competition is about getting customers to choose your product over theirs. Yeah, and you're not allowed to do it by harming your competitors. See, what you don't understand is, I've used this analogy before. It's totally fine to have a market leader, tortoise and the hare, and the tortoise slowly catches up with the hare. But the tortoise can't tie the hare's shoelaces together. You can't harm your competitor in order to pass them. So you can't say, oh wow, you make up 48% of Call of Duty's purchases every year. That's an awful lot of money. Dink, you can't do it anymore. We just hurt your revenue stream. When we hurt your revenue stream to that tectonic of a degree, you're going to have to downsize, lay people off, probably shut down certain studios because you suddenly lose that much money in the blink of an eye. That is absolutely anti-competitive, market restrictive behavior. That's what these regulators are supposed to protect against. That's what competition is. Woosah. That's not what competition is, brother. No. No. You guys are so... Oh my gosh, take a basic economics course. That is not competition, bro. If you started a business selling orange cubes and it became a massive part of your business, and another guy down the road was also selling those orange cubes, and you were selling them way more than him, okay? If he buys up the company that distributes those orange cubes and no longer allows you to sell them and takes them from you, that's anti-competitive behavior. That's controlling a market to a degree of damaging another business. That's not allowed. There are literal laws against this sort of thing. You just aren't educated about it. You can't do that. You cannot intentionally spend money to harm your competition by taking things from them. That's not competition. That's what competition is about. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. This is sounding like an insult. You guys are just extremely uneducated about this subject. That's false. You're just saying things that are false. Xbox is number one. According to Microsoft, they're not. According to Microsoft, Xbox is in last place on console and 7th on PC. Xbox isn't number one in any department. This isn't about Xbox versus PlayStation. That's not the discussion. Invoking console tribalism is silly. It'll get you nowhere. A 5-month renewal from the Trill Troll. I'm sorry, Lono. Say it again for the people in the back. He's actually doubling down? I'm not doubling down. How am I doubling down by quoting Microsoft? If you're going to claim Xbox is number one, in what department is Xbox number one? Microsoft literally admitted they're in last place in the console race, and they're 7th on PC. They did so to argue they don't have a foothold in the market. Like they quite literally admitted they don't have a foothold in the market that is worthy of worry. Like, I'm not slamming them. These are facts. I mean, if these facts hurt your fifis, I'm sorry, but these are just facts. Like, wait, Microsoft said it, not even me. I'm not even the one that said it. They said it. 2 months from Kratos. Woosaw, thank you. Sony pays for exclusives. Is that fair? See, you got to pay close attention, Ren. You have to pay close attention. When Microsoft bought Bethesda, okay, Sony didn't say a word. When Microsoft disrupted what was probably going to be what seemed like there were rumors about a timed exclusive with Starfield, Sony didn't say anything. Sony didn't complain about that. When Phil Spencer did an interview and said that, future Bethesda properties are considered Microsoft properties, Sony didn't complain about that. Sony didn't say anything. Why? Because they buy titles and they buy studios and they do exclusives, right? So when Microsoft did that, nobody says anything. When Sony bought Bungie, or not Bungie, Bungie's a bad example. When Sony has bought studios or paid for timed exclusivity, nobody says anything. Why? Well, that's what both studios are doing. They're both attempting to create reasons to come to their platform. The retailers do this too, by the way. Hey, if you pre-order, remember this is happening? If you pre-order through Walmart, you got something. If you pre-ordered through GameStop, you got something, right? Like the retailers were spending money to try to get people to pre-order a game from their location, right? Nobody's ever complained about that. Now, consumers might have complained about that, but Microsoft and Sony have never uttered a single word about that. That's not what this is. You don't understand this situation. If you're invoking timed exclusivity or Final Fantasy, you're admitting to the world that you don't understand this situation because you're thinking about it like this. Well, Sony's bought exclusives before, okay? You're following the wrong content creators and the wrong gaming journalists, these gaming bloggers that invoked, it's hypocritical for Sony to take issue with this. Thanks for admitting you have zero business acumen and zero understanding of the scope of the situation. Thanks for letting everybody know you don't know what you're talking about. Because if you're following people that said that, they're admitting that they don't know what they're talking about. Because this has nothing to do with timed exclusivity. This has nothing to do with buying up exclusives. This isn't comparable to Final Fantasy, okay? This is a game and a franchise that is so endemic in the gaming ecosystem that to suddenly put it on one platform would harm the market. The CMA agrees. Microsoft agrees. Sony agrees. So if you're looking at the situation and coming to a different conclusion than that, you're dumb. Because nobody sees it that way. Microsoft doesn't see it that way. The CMA regulatory board doesn't see it that way. And Sony doesn't see it that way. Nobody weighing in on the subject with even the remotest clue of the size and scope and reach of Call of Duty is concluding that making Call of Duty exclusive to one platform is equal to timed exclusivity in Final Fantasy. That no. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of the scope of the subject. You don't get it. Sony's requirements to allow Microsoft to acquire Activision. Oh, they don't want any extra content that's not available on PlayStation, no hardware enhancements, no Xbox Game Pass benefits. Yeah. I mean, homie, they're negotiating. They're negotiating. Like, Sony's negotiating. I said this earlier. To all the people that are like, Jim Ryan's crying. No, Jim Ryan's playing three-dimensional chess. Because Jim Ryan got Microsoft to admit in ink, in bold letters, that PlayStation will continue to get Call of Duty. He got them to make that statement publicly and privately. Why does that matter? It matters to investors, and it matters to anybody considering buying a PS5. Market confidence in the Sony ecosystem is unshaken if Microsoft publicly claims we're not taking it from PlayStation. They've got them to claim it numerous times. He's playing three-dimensional chess. He's fostering increased and continued confidence in the Sony ecosystem. He's saying, listen, I'm going to get Microsoft to tell the world that Call of Duty isn't going anywhere. And they do it in brilliant fashion. Microsoft comes out and says, we have both privately committed and publicly committed to keeping Call of Duty on PlayStation. And they go further. They say, we have a business imperative to keep Call of Duty on the PlayStation platform. They go further. They say, we have a reliance, a future dependency on receiving revenue from Activision Blizzard titles landing on PlayStation. What do you think that does? What do you think that does? That fosters an increased and a sustained confidence in the PlayStation platform. And he got Microsoft to do it. And you think he's crying. He got his competitor to foster confidence in his platform. Because anybody that's worried about Call of Duty, they might not buy a PS5 if they're worried. They might wait. They do. They might. Think about it. They're struggling to ramp up and distribute PS5s. Now, that's about to change first quarter of next year. But in the meantime, they're going to try and ramp up and distribute ones for the holidays. They're going to try and ramp up and distribute ones for first quarter of next year. And he just got the world to hear in no uncertain terms that Call of Duty will remain on PlayStation. That's brilliant. It's brilliant. Do you know what else is brilliant? Microsoft's strategy is brilliant. It is. Microsoft's strategy is brilliant. You're thinking that Microsoft's trying to beat Sony. That's not what they're trying to do. Microsoft is trying to sell software. And they admitted that Sony is twice the size as them in the console world. 150 million consoles in circulation. What do you think Microsoft sees when they see 150 million consoles in circulation? They see dollar signs. They see, we can sell games over there. We can sell games over there. If we buy Activision Blizzard, we can make money from Sony customers. How does that not blow your mind? That's a 900 IQ play. We're not going to beat them in a land war. We're not. If it's pure brute force of distributing consoles, Microsoft lost that many years ago. So what do? They sneak in the back door. They say, we can make... If we can't convert people from Sony to our platform, let's just sell stuff to them. See, like, people think that I'm anti-Microsoft. What I just said is high praise for Microsoft's strategy. It's high praise. What they're doing is absolutely brilliant. It's brilliant. Microsoft using Sony to make more money, not beat them. Brilliant. It's a 900 IQ play, and you're down here in the mud, slinging mud at Jim Ryan and Sony, thinking that you're taking up for Papa Microsoft, and Papa Microsoft is like, shut the frick up. We want to sell games to them. Shut your mouth. That's not what this is about. It's not about Xbox versus Sony. It's not. It's about growing a software distribution footprint in the gaming world. Think about it like this. Think about it from this perspective. Microsoft dominates operating system distribution, Microsoft Office distribution, cloud-based solutions distribution with Azure. And what if in 10 years they're dominating software distribution of video games because they own some of the biggest property in gaming, and it's sold everywhere? Don't you see how that fits in with how they treat everything else? You have the wishful thinking of a Sony fanboy. You have the intellectual depth of a child. I just talked about how this is going to be huge for Microsoft. How does that make me a Sony fanboy? I have a Series X, and I'm like, man, if Microsoft can pull this off, and they're really successful at this, all the property they own will grow and be better. They'll reinvest in these studios. They'll reinvest in these properties. Like, I know it's really difficult as like bottom of the barrel, lowbrow YouTube commenter to rise above that and actually have a conversation like an adult, but I'm actually describing something that could be very good for the ecosystem and the gaming market and for Microsoft and subsequently me as a gamer and content creator. And the best you can muster is that I'm a Sony fanboy with wishful thinking. Why would I have wishful thinking and hopeful thinking about Microsoft? That doesn't even make any sense if I'm a Sony fanboy. It doesn't make any sense. It's like you don't have another response. You're like the really outdated NPC that only has so many responses. You're like, cannot compute. You're a Sony fanboy. But no. You've just run out of responses. It's like you don't have anything else to say. It's like, well, this guy just completely broke down exactly how this is going to work out economically and how it could actually fundamentally change the ecosystem for Microsoft and give them a huge footprint in gaming and be very, very good for them. But I've determined he's a Sony fanboy, so I'm just going to say that again. Sony was paying Activision to keep COD off of Game Pass. That's never been proven. If you think Microsoft doesn't want to take the lead in the industry, then you're delusional. Well, I never said that. I didn't say that they don't want to take the lead. I've actually said their 900 IQ play to give them a bigger foothold in the gaming industry is bigger than the consoles. That's the point. Like, again, I have a greater respect for what they're doing. You're turning it into console tribalism. Yeah, take that, Sony. And Microsoft's like, shut the frick up. They're about to become one of our best customers. Shut up. Like, seriously, you're the yippy dog in the backyard that everybody wishes would be quiet. It's like, hey, the adults are talking. Shut up. This isn't about Sony versus Microsoft. This isn't about Sony versus Xbox anymore. That's not what we're doing. Microsoft's on record saying we are looking forward to relying upon the revenue of selling this property on Sony. And you're like, yeah, suck it, Sony ponies. The adults are talking. Just be quiet. Cloud gaming is actual butt cheeks. Nobody wants it. Fully time. I actually think cloud gaming will turn a corner at one point. Infrastructure needs to catch up. Internet infrastructure needs to catch up, but I actually think cloud gaming will turn a significant corner and be massive. I do. All tech analysis points to it being huge. It's just in its infancy right now. I have more confidence in cloud getting a foothold in the market. Cloud's foothold will be bigger than VR's foothold. VR will take longer, I think. I think VR will take a longer time to get a foothold in cloud. You said I woke up and chose violence. Did you have some Madam Roast with your breakfast? What's good, Juicy? Microsoft has said in the past, fill in the blank game will be best played on our platform. What does that mean? I hope not exclusive content. But if not, then what? Well, right, like fundamentally, Sony's going to try to put a stop to that. I don't know if Sony can, right? That's the biggest question. So let's actually get down into the details here. Hey, somebody ordered some coffee, 3 bags of dark roast to Glenn. You didn't put a username. Thank you so much. What is this? Oh, okay, cool. You got real excited Tuesday. Was a great show. Moonlight and home streaming and GeForce Now Premium are really low latency already. Yeah, it's already coming. Glenn is my new best friend, says Zubair. There's a huge infrastructure boom for fiber happening right now. Fed's throwing billions. Yeah, exactly. Detonator, I've always said if the internet infrastructure in the West could catch up, then cloud will get a better foothold. Cloud is just dependent on infrastructure to help it and to catch up. Like it's kind of like it's kind of like batteries, right? Batteries have always lagged behind the rest of the tech world. They're just like they're too big, not enough charge. Like we're like, hey, we just souped up this phone that can do 85 new things. And you're like, the battery's just caught up, bro. Battery life's going to die again, right? Batteries are always playing catch up. Internet infrastructure is going to try and catch up as well. What did Nanya say? Wrong. Microsoft said it doesn't make sense to make COD exclusive unless we could fit PlayStation players into Xbox players. That is what this is really about. They didn't say that. No, that's never been stated in that way. You're creating a narrative that doesn't exist. Microsoft is actually on record saying the opposite of what you just said. Microsoft is officially on record saying that they have not been able to convert Sony players. I think they've basically admitted we can't convert them. Let's stop trying. Let's just sell them software instead. Like the easiest read of it, like if you apply Occam's razor, the simplistic, most minimal moving parts answer here is Microsoft goes from concluding we can't convert Sony players to buying property to sell to Sony players. Like that's the easiest read of it. They've literally admitted that they can't convert PlayStation players. So they've not stated anywhere in the response to the CMA, in Phil's interviews, and in Microsoft's public and private dealings, they've never said, well, we'll do this as long as we can't convert Sony players. They've never said that. Yeah, they've said that they can't overcome 30 years of loyalty. Like, I think you're misreading it. They did. Go look up their first response to Brazil. They absolutely said that. So Phil writes a blog. Phil does an interview, and Microsoft officially replies to the CMA saying they're not going to do that. And you're telling me that they told Brazil, well, we're not going to do that unless we can convert people over. What? They also recently admitted that they can't do that. So it stands to reason that they've concluded we can't convert people. They're too loyal. Sony saturation's bonkers. They literally said that, Sony saturation's twice the size of ours. So their strategy is not trying to convert Sony players. Their strategy is just to sell software to them. Sony admitted that they know Call of Duty marketing converts players. It goes both ways. Yeah, and Malcolm, you know what's funny? When Sony said that, I didn't agree with them. I didn't agree that Call of Duty marketing would convert players, not in great numbers. Not in great numbers. Now, they might have their own market research to prove me wrong, but I didn't think that was true. I think they're more worried about, oh, AOZ just upgraded to a Tier 3 membership. Thank you so much. We need 4 people to do that to Tier 2, and I'll start pushing out new content for Tier 2 and above. We could convert their players whenever we want to. We just don't want to right now. Super Gaming with a $5 tip through Super Chat. I wonder if Xbox saw the people playing MLB The Show since it's made by Sony, but MLB made them make it for Xbox. I don't know if that held a lot of sway here. Yeah, okay, so if anybody's trying to run with the narrative that PlayStation was paying to block things from going on Game Pass, that's another false narrative that non-investigative, lowbrow gaming bloggers and YouTubers have trotted out. That's not true. Anybody who actually investigated that, and you always tell me to go read the documents, well, go read the frickin' documents. They did not pay to keep games off of Game Pass. They had contractual agreements with companies where they wanted right of refusal, which is to say, hey, we're marketing your game, Resident Evil Village. We don't want it to hit Game Pass before it hits our subscription service. We also don't want the game to have any difference of graphics. We want graphical parity since we're marketing your dadgum game. We're not going to enter into a marketing contract of a game that will be on the competitor's subscription service and look better. That doesn't make any sense. It's completely sensible to say, we're going to enter into a marketing contract with you. If we enter into a marketing contract with you, we don't want this game to be on their subscription service because that's us inadvertently promoting our competitor. Oh, and we want graphical parity because that also inadvertently promotes our competitor if it looks and runs better over there. That's not paying money to block something from Game Pass. But when you follow gaming journalist bloggers who run with stories before proper research, or YouTubers who run with videos before proper research, they'll run with a headline and a thumbnail that says, Sony paid to block games from Game Pass, and then you say it for an infinitude of interactions because now it's gospel. Think about Deathloop. There's no actual reason why it would be on PlayStation Plus unless the contract they had dictated that it needed to be there. I mean, I don't know. We'd have to see the contract, Grim, because that contract was dated and signed before the acquisition of Bethesda or Arcane. Like, before that happened, they were already in agreement with Sony. So, like, Deathloop's in a weird spot. It was a contract that predated the acquisition, so we'd need to see the details. I don't know what the details of that was. Yes, you're the only one who does proper research. I didn't say that. I didn't say I'm the only one. I said when you follow someone who doesn't do proper research and just gives you a false headline, you run with it. It was a conditional statement, and it signified a particular group. I know it's hard for you. You're struggling today with just grasping and basic listening skills. I said, if that's where you get it, if you go to people who don't do proper research, that's what you're going to get. I didn't say nobody does proper research but me. I didn't say that. You said that. That's the fallacy of a straw man. Do you have on your desk, if you look in front of you, do you have like flashcards of argumentative fallacies and you just randomly pick them up and try them out? Like, is that what you're doing? Okay, Paul found what Microsoft said. The fact that rival consoles enjoy broad brand loyalty. Your rival consoles have built a strong reputation and enjoy a high degree of player loyalty as demonstrated by best SEO research companies. It is unlikely that a significant number of current users of PlayStation and Nintendo console would migrate to Xbox as a result of hypothetical strategy of exclusivity in relation to Activision Games Blizzard. Wait, that's what they said to Brazil? I was told that they said, we won't make it exclusive unless we can convert people. I doubt you did proper research. Did my face change at all? I don't want to indicate that I care what you think about how much research I do. Your opinion matters as much as this segment. We're done. Microsoft has honored all previous contracts. Right, because you have to legally. Like, if they're in contract, you can't just like null a contract by purchasing a company. I'm limited in characters. Got a number I can call? I'd love to debate you. I've been following the industry since Pong. I don't know who you are. I'm not inviting you to my show. Plenty of people come in here and debate me day in, day out without needing to phone in. I have patience. I'll read everything you say. I know it's harder. I acknowledge. I've said this many times. I wish I could give you like a 500 character limit. I wish I could set that because I would gladly give you guys more character limitations. I would. I think 200's a joke, but I don't have any control over it. We have a Discord, and members can use the Discord, and you can type a dadgum book in there, and I'll read it. I've done it many times. You can stop a contract by buying a company? No, you can't. No. Unless the contract has a clause in there, but the lawyers can weigh in here. It's my understanding that you can't do that. If you enter into a contract with another company, that contract's not nullified by an acquisition unless the contract stipulates that. Like, that would be breach of contract. The bear says, I just got lawyer cancer. You can go to court? Okay, but that doesn't mean you can stop a contract by buying a company. That's not what you said. You said, "Oh no, you can stop a contract by buying a company." Well, no, that's going to court, sure, or renegotiating with that company, sure, you could do that. Yo, Prowl8413 is redirecting his viewers over here. Thank you so much. We got to get together, man. We got to get together. You reached out in the DM, and I'm so bad about responding and pursuing. That was more a rhetorical statement that I'm extremely limited on what I can say. Listen, Nunya, I am never, ever going to flex the fact that I can talk fast and you have to type. I'm never going to do that. No, I don't think that I'm going to sit here and dismiss your comments or ignore you because you have to type 200 characters. Keep typing. Debate me. You're welcome to. Some people debate me and they type multiple lines and they go 1 of 2, 1 of 3. Do it. I'll read everything you type. If you want to debate me in good faith, don't ever feel like I'm being dismissive because you can't type that much. I've never done that. Yo, everybody coming over from Prowl with the redirect. Thank you guys so much. If you click on Prowl8413's name, you can check out his channel. His channel is bigger than mine, 73,000 subscribers, and he has been doing a lot of Minecraft hardcore streams, it looks like. So if you're into Minecraft, I don't do Minecraft. Be sure to check out Prowl8413. If he talks in chat, you should be able to click on him and go to channel. If you enjoy Minecraft content, you ain't going to get it from me, but you can get it from Prowl. Thank you, everybody who came over from Prowl. We are discussing the Xbox Activision deal. We are discussing what it looks like and all the stipulations that the CMA is worried. The UK has responded. They're a little concerned. And yesterday we covered Microsoft's response. Today we're covering exactly what the UK covered. Oh, you have 2 channels. That one does Minecraft. Oh, he has a variety gaming channel as well. Okay, cool. I just clicked on your name in chat. I didn't realize. Hang on. I want to see. I've not looked at your other channel before. If I scroll down, is it down there? Oh, it's the Prowl Gaming channel with the guy jumping. Okay, his gaming channel has a little over 1,000 subscribers, and it looks like he has been doing... Wait. That's Shatterline. Let me just go to your recent uploads. He's been doing shorts about Shatterline, a shooter that he told me about a while ago. So if you're interested in Shatterline, it looks like you can get a lot of coverage of Shatterline from Prowl Gaming. Prowl8413 Gaming is the name of the channel. Thanks for bringing your homies over. Rating and redirecting is not a culture over here yet, but it will be one day, and so will be members and gifted members and member drives. So thank you, everybody who is a member here. If you're doing memberships and supporting Prowl, thanks for doing that. Continue to try to foster that community when he streams. We want to see that over here on YouTube. Do the memberships, do the giftings, really celebrate that you can support somebody directly, especially if Prowl's like me. I think a lot of live streamers over here are like me. We never run ads over here. We need the memberships. That's what live streams kind of live off of. You think this acquisition as a whole is good for the gaming industry? Good job in your live. Thank you. Okay, let me give you my opinion of the acquisition. My opinion of the acquisition is that this could be very, very good to put Microsoft into a more competitive position, but it has the danger of being anti-competitive. Does that make sense? A lot of people think I'm anti-Microsoft, and I am not. I cut my teeth and grew my channel and grew my streaming life on the Xbox platform, okay? For a long time, I couldn't cover Sony stuff because a lot of my audience would leave. They didn't like it. So I actually think, yes, this acquisition could be very good to raise Microsoft up and make them more competitive in the market. But it's such a gigantic acquisition, it could create anti-competitive natures to the market. Like what Eugene is saying, massive consolidation is tectonic. It can be very bad. Tell us, Prowlers, what this channel is about. I'm so out of practice. Keela, you're right. I'm supposed to do that when someone raids. I streamed on Purple for a really long time. I'm dumb. Welcome to Reforge Gaming. Everybody calls me Lono. This is a variety gaming talk show. We do multiple shows a day, Monday through Friday. I am safe for work. Many people treat me like a radio show or a podcast. They throw me on in the background of their day, Monday through Friday, always covering what we feel are the latest and biggest gaming news stories with a very interactive chat. And I keep it safe for work, which means I'm not going to be swearing on the broadcast. We also do members-only content. If you become a member, it's only $5. You get access to my members-only Discord, and we do a members-only talk show at the end of every day. So thanks for being here. Smash the like button. We like to hit those like milestones, so let's set our sights on 400 likes. We could probably hit it, and consider becoming a member. This is a very, very generous community. The more often you're here, the more likely you'll get a gifted membership, and we really appreciate the support. I do not do bikini streams. Juicy Fat is a compulsive liar. That's not true. Sorry, Prowlers. I swear he's a professional streamer. He is usually better than this. I'm so out of practice. You know what's funny? Even on Purple, I never got raided near the end. I was always raiding other people because, well, nobody raids the king, right? It's hilarious that everyone bases this Sony domination from just one generation. Last generation where Microsoft overcharged $100 for the first underpowered Xbox, forgetting how Xbox 360 outsold PS3. Nunya, here's the thing, though. It's not just about one generation. Microsoft literally said it in their response. We covered it yesterday. I'll read it to you. Did you read the tweet thread from the Verge guy, Tom? What's his dadgum name? Tom Warren. Did you read this? This is what Microsoft said to the CMA. This is not me speaking. Here, I'll pull the image up. I'll pull it up for you. This is not me. This isn't me. Jim Ryan will ruin Sony. Yeah, okay. Record sales, expanding their studios. I think they're just fine. Okay, this is Microsoft. This is not me. I'm not saying any of this. Okay? First bullet point. Sony PlayStation has been the largest console platform for over 20 years, with an install base of over 150 million consoles, making it larger than Nintendo and more than double the size of Xbox. So, you see what I'm saying? That people aren't like, oh, it's just one generation. They're like, no, man, Sony's been killing it for like a while. And even Microsoft's acknowledging that. Microsoft is not trying to beat around the bush here. They're like, bro, this deal can go through. We're not dominant in the market. We would like to be. We would like to be. But they're not dominant in the market like they want to be. That's the whole purpose of this buy, is they want to be more dominant in the market. You have to remember that like the Xbox Gaming division almost closed down in 2014 or whatever it was. Like Microsoft almost shuttered the whole thing. So the idea that like, people are somehow misreading this or giving too much credit to Sony. Brother, even Microsoft is admitting how great Sony's been doing. Microsoft's going to say whatever they need to get this deal to go through. See, okay, this is why engaging with folks like you is really exhausting, because you take an unfalsifiable position. So you're presented with evidence and facts, and you say, well, they're going to say whatever they have to. Okay? Why bother engaging with your position when it's so properly protected in a garrison of looking away from information contrary to it? Why? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like they're citing how successful Sony has been, and you're just like, yeah, well, they'll say whatever they have to. Where is this quote? In Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 2, Data said, "Do you consider your position so weak that it cannot withstand debate?" And I feel like that's what this always looks like to me. It's like the position can't withstand debate. It's too weak. It's like, well, I'm just going to ignore the contrary evidence to what I'm claiming. Like, people don't think that Sony is the market leader out of fandom. Basic market analysis will tell you that Sony's been the leader for a while. PlayStation also said they can't compete with Game Pass. That's a blatant lie as well. Is that exactly what they said? Or did they say that it would pose a threat to the competitive nature of subscription services? Exactly how do they phrase it, Miguel? How did they phrase it? I would need to see the direct quote. Sony said, yeah, we can't compete with Game Pass. Well, come on, that's ludicrous. Or did they say that the presence of Game Pass would pose a potential anti-competitive nature within the subscription realm when they can put such large titles on it? Like, what exactly did they say? Only 10% of PlayStation owners buy Sony exclusives. What? Most are buying a console for FIFA, Madden, Fortnite, Apex, and Call of Duty. Xbox 360 outsold the PS3 that entire generation. Of course, Microsoft won't mention that. Why would they bother mentioning something that happened more than 2 decades ago? What, Nunya, what bearing does that have on the discussion right now? Seriously. What bearing does that have? If you're talking about somebody winning a race and they're like, well, but when I was in high school 20 years ago, I was the all-star on my track team, and they have a beer gut and they're out of shape. Bro, who the frick cares? What bearing does it have on the discussion that Microsoft crushed it with the 360? Quite literally, who cares? The Xbox has never outsold PlayStation, says Paul. Yeah, Xbox 360 actually didn't outsell PlayStation 3. Another claim that's getting falsified right now by actual data. PlayStation 3 hit 87.4 million. Xbox 360 hit 84 million. So that's another false statement. The PlayStation 3 outsold the 360, so that's false too. Do you have anything else to say? You're just stating things that aren't true. And the exclusive attach rate for PlayStation games is actually incredibly high last I checked. So I think that's also false. We can double check the data on that one. Over time, right? So if you're going to go back 20-something years and cite who sold the most, then frickin' do it. PlayStation 3 outsold the Xbox 360. So why are you going to invoke some... What? Are you going to invoke... What? Was there a quarter back then? Was there like a quarter of the year where they outsold? What's the argument? The point is that Xbox is absolutely capable of taking PlayStation's spot. If this industry shifts on a dime, I don't know if I would call 20 plus years a dime, but okay. Though the PS3 only outsold the 360 after Microsoft moved on to Xbox One. Man, these goalposts are shifting so much I'm getting whiplash. In a generation where they launched a year earlier and had 1/3 the fail rate, prompting people to buy more than one of them, and they still got outsold, and the PlayStation was 100 more. Yeah, the PlayStation cost more than the 360, and it came out later, and they still got outsold. Of course, they outsold them in the beginning. They launched earlier. You can't say that it outsold them for X amount of time. That means nothing. Right, like, going back, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're trying to substantiate something that isn't I'm going to make your argument for you, Nunya, because you're bad at this, and I'm going to do a better job for you. You ready? If you want to actually argue that Microsoft has the potential to be dominant in the market, you're making a fatal mistake by going back 20 plus years and being like, but the 360 did better for a little bit of time. That's a horrible argument. Do you want to substantiate your claim that Microsoft could actually be competitive in the market? It's really easy. They just dropped potentially $70 billion on 20% of the global revenue share of the world. Like, that's how much money that the global gaming market makes, and they dropped 20% of that potentially on an acquisition. That's all you need to say. You don't need to go back 20 years and be like, well, during this window of time, the 360 outsold the PS3, ignoring the fact that the 360 launched a year earlier and the PS3 sold for $100 more. Like, you can, Nunya, you can make the argument that Microsoft is a threat and could get a foothold in the market. You can make that argument. You're not going to make that argument by going back to the 360 versus the PS3. Make the argument now. They're dropping $70 billion potentially on the biggest acquisition maybe in the history of the world. That's them flexing their potential foothold in the market. That's all you need to say, bro. Your argument's easier to make than you're making it on yourself. The point is that Microsoft outsold the PS3 with only their second console. They weren't even really trying then. They just only now have. Going back 20 years was to make a broader point. Einstein. Calling me Einstein. Wow, so charitable. Oh, golly. The idea that I love that too. That line's my favorite, chat. They weren't even trying back then. I would love to see Phil Spencer or someone from Microsoft walk out and say that. Look, guys, look. PlayStation's been kicking the crap out of us for 20 years. They're basically twice our size, but we weren't really trying for the last 20 years, okay? We're actually trying now. That sounds like the guy who loses a video game 8 times in a row and is like, I've not really been trying. I'm going to try now. Okay. That's a wonderful summary of Microsoft's business acumen and their strategies with the Xbox Gaming division for the last 20 years. They weren't really trying back then. They weren't really trying. It was a bunt, you know. They weren't really trying. They weren't investing millions into R&D and tech advancements and trying to put out a great console to compete. They weren't really trying. It was just they were just messing around, you know. Yeah, we half-assed the 360. It amazed us. Yeah, we couldn't believe that it actually did well. It's mind-blowing. Microsoft is only now making Xbox division their number one priority. No, they're not. False. They're not making the Xbox division their number one priority. That's absolutely ludicrous to claim. They're throwing support behind it with the giant acquisition, yes. But if you think Microsoft's number one priority is the Xbox division, you haven't looked at a single financial report from the company. I missed a super chat? No, I didn't. No, I did not. No, I did not. There's no super chat. There hasn't been a super chat for 10 minutes. There's no super chats in chat. Did anybody see a Miguel super chat? Chat, did I miss it? Can someone screenshot it? If I miss it, I'm sorry. I don't see it. It's too far up now. You did not miss it. I don't think I missed it. Juicy Fat with a 2 spot. I think he missed a super chat 15 minutes ago, but I lie. You do. A lot. Okay, hang on. Is this it? Oh, this is it. We're supposed to believe. Wait, oh my gosh. Thank you. Immortal found it. I am so sorry. Miguel. 100% my bad. I am sorry. 100%. 100%. Thank you so much. Immortal Turtle found it. This is on me. When we get ranting and raving, I miss this. It was a 5 spot from Miguel. I want the big established players to acquire stuff. Ninty, Sony, Microsoft, everybody else can scram. Tencent and Savvy especially. So you super chatted to say you're in favor of consolidation. That's interesting. Why are you in favor of consolidation? Can you substantiate that? Like, what's the reasoning behind there? Mike and the Mike with the 10 spot. No super chats. Let me fix that. What's up, Lono? What's good, my man? I am sorry, Miguel. Okay. I do not ignore super chats. We do not run an operation like that. Absolutely not. That's my mistake. So, Nunya, if you're going to try to claim that Microsoft's number one priority is now the gaming division, let me introduce you to the financial breakdown. So server products. So this is basically, I'm imagining this is Azure. That's why it's so big. Office products. Wow. And then Windows. Holy friggin' moly. What is that? 60% of the pie is Azure, Office, and Windows. And then gaming's 9%. So the beauty of this pie is they could nuke that 9% and be like, what happened? It wouldn't hurt them. It would hurt, but not really, because the money they're dumping into it. Keep in mind, this is a revenue breakdown. This division here is not profitable. So that 9% represents loss. Keep that in mind, by the way. That this 9% is falling below what they spend to keep it going. The gaming division, I think their first fiscal year of profit just happened. So typically, up until literally just the most recent fiscal year, this gaming slice represents loss for the company, not profit. That's why this is a revenue breakdown, not a profit breakdown. I'm going to be real. What is Azure? It's their cloud-based solutions. Sony is a Microsoft customer. They use Azure for their cloud-based stuff. Let me rephrase. Microsoft is just now only making Xbox and gaming a bigger priority than ever before. Here's the problem with what you're saying, Nunya. Here's the problem with what you're saying. Historically speaking, Microsoft actually did put a lot behind gaming. Are we supposed to believe that the risk of stepping into the console landscape was not extremely costly? How is that not them not taking it serious? How is them investing in first-party property like Halo so many years that they wanted to do it, that they literally drove Bungie away from the property? Bungie was so sick of making Halo that they got out from underneath of Microsoft. But you're postulating as if, no, now is when Microsoft's really trying. Bro, what? You look at the history of Xbox and Halo and all the money spent, all the research and development, all the R&D, all the work, and we're supposed to believe that only now they're trying. I don't buy it. I don't. Because in 2014, when they were considering shutting it down, I guarantee you a part of that equation was, look how much we've spent. It isn't working. It isn't profitable. They didn't say, well, we gave it a C effort, so cut it. If there's one thing Microsoft has proven over the years, let's look at Mixer. They will throw money and effort and infrastructure behind something. But when it starts to fail, they axe it. They signed some of the biggest contracts in streaming history. Not now, obviously. I think YouTube threw some money around. But when they bought Ninja and Shroud and that other clown, they were quite literally throwing money and infrastructure behind Mixer. And it went nowhere. and they killed it. So to look at the pattern of Microsoft's behavior, and if you're going to conclude that they didn't really try in gaming until right now, I find that to be a woefully inadequate and uncompelling argument. I'm not compelled. It doesn't stand to reason that they've just been like, what, whiffing it on purpose all this time? I'll tell you, it looks more like this. This is what it looks like to me. It doesn't look like they're finally taking it serious. It looks like a Hail Mary. That's not shade, but it looks like a Hail Mary. The only way this works is if we acquire a bunch of software. That's the only way we make this division profitable. I don't think that's like a slam. I think it's a logical conclusion. We can't win. Sony's too ahead. They're too far ahead. We can't beat them. Can't beat them. That's the only way to do it. If Microsoft didn't have projected numbers showing that Xbox Gaming could bring them massive revenue, they wouldn't have invested $75 billion into the industry. Oh, you're right there. You're so close. You got to modify that sentence a little teeny bit, and you did it. You made it. Microsoft projects numbers showing massive revenue from the investment into Blizzard Activision. You're right there on the edge, bro. You've almost got it. This acquisition is the way that they generate tons of revenue. This is it. This is their road to profitability. Like I said, you're so close, bro. You keep arguing about like Microsoft could be a contender because they sold a lot of 360s, or Microsoft could be a contender because, well, they didn't really try until right now. No, bro, they could be a contender because they're dropping $70 billion on the market. They are flopping out their giant, massive you-know-what and saying, we're making a play. They're flexing, bro. You're focusing on all the wrong things, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's driven by fandom, like I've got to defend them and their honor or something, but it's like, no, you don't have to do that at all. Like, their pocketbook's so damn deep that they can just like disrupt the market with their checkbook. That's the only convincing I need. How does Microsoft get a foothold in the market? Well, Daddy's checkbook. That's how. Jiminy frickin' Christmas. Killed by Microsoft. 148 studios. Yeah, $70 billion on software that's sold on the current market leaders' platforms. Benevolent. Yes, exactly. That's it. Xbox is already pre-established. Mixer wasn't. My point wasn't that they never put that kind of money into Xbox or gaming before. They've been outselling PS5 since Christmas. Already a contender. Oh, see, it just... Oh, man. I feel like I'm trying to help somebody get over a wall, and you just keep looking in the dirt. That... You're there. You're right there. No, bro. No, they're not outselling the PS5 since Christmas. They had one quarter where they outsold. One quarter. One. Golly, good golly. They're already looking at the market projections for console saturation rate. Microsoft knows they can't keep up. I'm trying. Let's try this. What could I say that would change your mind? It's a fundamental misunderstanding of where entertainment in general is going. Yeah, they had one quarter where they outsold the PS5, but it was the result of them ramping up Series S production, and Sony hit a slump in production. It was literally a blip on the frickin' radar. It wasn't indicative of a pattern or a trajectory. Yeah, revenue and units sold is 100% Sony's the leader for the year. Yeah, we've already looked at this. Like that, I'm telling you, so I'm trying to phrase it so it doesn't sound insulting. I think so many of you are used to watching poorly researched videos And when you come in here, you're not dealing with one guy. You're dealing with a team of people. I got a producer. I got folks like Eugene and others and Paul who are constantly fact-finding and grabbing me articles. And you're just not used to that. You're used to some lowbrow, quick 10-minute video. Some guy wants to jump on a story and doesn't properly research it. And so much that's baked into the schema of how you view this stuff. And then you get faced with facts and data and research, and you're like, I don't know how to interact with this. I've been watching this other guy and this other guy and this other person for a year, and all their stuff didn't say any of this. There's a reason for that. Do you want to know why we cover stuff like a day after it happens? Because I don't typically do what I did yesterday. Yesterday, I jumped on the story because it was going to cannibalize the show, but we almost never do that. Why? Because we want it to be vetted and researched. I don't bunt. I don't kick out crap. And a lot of YouTubers do. Why? Because the video is forgotten and it makes some money. And that's it. I don't do that. I do not do that. I think so much of the drive-by, tribalistic, click farm YouTube culture has created this like inability. It's like you literally see data contrary to your position and you just dismiss the data. Oh, well, Microsoft would say anything to get the deal to go through. Well, okay, well then what's the point of even having the discussion if data can't compel you? If direct quotes from Microsoft aren't compelling for the company themselves, like, I hope the acquisition goes through so everyone can shut up. Anthony, make no mistake, you've been making a lot of lowbrow, dumb comments in my chat all day, calling people soy and everything else, because, I don't know, I guess you wanted a response. This is your first one from me, so, I don't know, maybe record this and send it to your mom so you can feel good about yourself. I hope the acquisition goes through too. That's not what this video is about. None of my coverage of the acquisition has been about it not going through. A lot of the people here aren't arguing for it to not go through. We're arguing the nuances of the weight of it, what it could do to the market, and why certain pieces of the acquisition are dangerous if handled poorly. I think it'll go through late next year. Yeah, I think it goes through. I just think it's going to stall out. I think Microsoft's going to get frustrated because this is going to second phase, and then the EU is going to take hold of it, and then that's going to take even longer. This is not a fanboy channel, right? Like, listen, there's plenty of guys that do this. Like, they'll go to my shorts. Okay, let me explain YouTube shorts to you guys. Some of you may have found me through a YouTube short, and you're like, "There's a pattern here. He's really anti-Xbox." No, I'm not. Every time I cover Xbox and Sony, I have to deal with people who say things like Sony Pony and Xbox, and I have to smack them around. And when I smack them around, it makes for a good short. And then people think there's some kind of a pattern of anti-Microsoft coverage here. There isn't. Even today's coverage has been a lot of statements from me about the enormity of this being very good for Microsoft and actually being a 900 IQ play, and they're flexing on the market. Like, these are all positive statements. And I've not once ever said that I don't want it to go through. But people sample my shorts and they think he's anti-Microsoft. No, I'm anti-dum-dum. So when someone comes in and talks like a dum-dum, they get smacked around, and it makes for a great highlight. What happens if, and I'm asking if it actually doesn't go through? Sony Nakamura, that's a great question. If it doesn't go through, my prediction would be that Blizzard Activision would retain all Call of Duty property and probably King, and they'd sell everything else off. They'd probably sell off studios and divisions. They probably would do that. I think. It's hard to know, truly. It's hard to know, but I think they'd want to retain and hold on to Call of Duty because of just how profitable it is, and then King, and then they would just get rid of everything else. They would just sell, a couple of studios might end up under Sony's wing at that point because Sony wants to get into live service. You should probably make it obvious in your shorts because it just looks like that on the surface. Lewis. This is going to sound dismissive because it kind of is. I don't care. If someone's going to watch my short and come to a character determination about me or a pattern of my channel, I don't want them hanging out here. People's who bring, if someone's mental capacity has the depth of a thimble, then they can go watch somebody else. They can go watch somebody who's just going to click farm hate and anger. I don't do that. Like, plenty of people are enjoying the shorts and liking the shorts and coming here and hanging out, right? Somebody's going to watch a short and be like, this guy's just anti-Microsoft. Whew, dodged a bullet. Didn't have to listen to that person for 5 minutes before we banned them because they came in and disrupted everything and just insulted people. You think Sony could outbid Microsoft on anything? Oh, I don't think that, no. No, I just think that Sony would take an interest in some of the property. Like if Blizzard Activision had to do like a fire sale, like we're just going to sell off different divisions and studios, I actually do think at some point, yes, Sony would. Now, you might be saying, oh, no, Microsoft would outbid for anything in, under the sun. Like, oh, we can't get Blizzard Activision. Well, we'll buy everything that you're selling. I mean, yeah, maybe. Truly, it's difficult to know what would happen. That would be pretty huge blow if they can't get it to go through. If Microsoft cannot buy Activision, then Sony absolutely can't. Okay, I feel like I made it crystal clear what I was saying. I wasn't saying that if the deal doesn't go through, then Sony will buy them. I didn't say that. I said very clearly, Blizzard Activision would probably sell off individually all the property that isn't King and that isn't Call of Duty, and that Sony might end up with some of the studios. That's all I said. Why, though? They would only buy what they want at that point? Well, think about it like this. If Microsoft is suddenly shopping a la carte, there might be some studios they have no interest in, right? You can imagine a reality where suddenly Microsoft's not buying Activision Blizzard, but every studio's for sale except for the studios with COD and King, the mobile, right? Well, Microsoft might look at the remaining studios and say, well, we want this one and this one, but we don't really want this one. Like, that's not hard to imagine. There might be some studios and some properties that won't fit as well on Game Pass, that won't fit as well within the demographic. They might not even have a big enough footprint of profit because Microsoft wants big pieces of software to sell on multiple platforms. I don't think I'm saying anything that outlandish that if suddenly Blizzard Activision was selling individual studios and properties, Microsoft might pass on some of those studios. That's reasonable. My next question is, there's lots of talk that Xbox can't buy Japanese companies. Is this true? And if so, why do people want them to buy Sega? Japanese law stipulates things about that. I am not super educated on it, but my pedestrian understanding is that a Japanese company cannot be sold to an American one, according to Japanese business law. Somebody can elaborate more clearly on that, but that's my very low-level understanding of it. Yeah, Wheezy can probably elaborate on that. He's more educated in Japanese companies and things like that. That's a lie. Sony bought Bungie for the talent, not the IPs. Yeah, Sony bought Bungie for the live service infrastructure help. They didn't buy them for the IPs. In fact, they're on record saying all future Bungie property will be multi-platform, which I think points to the Sony live service games being multi-platform because they see the numbers of Destiny and they're impressive. Gotta say, coming to this channel and its daily discussions has been something of an epiphany for me. It made me realize how biased and one-sided most channels who claim to be gaming news are. Well, I appreciate that. Like, I'm not going to deny that I lean in favor of some of the things Sony has done, but I also cheer for Microsoft and want Microsoft to do well. But I'm also critical of Game Pass and what I think it's going to do to the economic realities of gaming. But that's not me being a fanboy of Sony. That's me making a business assessment and saying, I think this ecosystem's healthier and better. I don't think that of this ecosystem. That's not driven by fandom. It's just driven by analysis. Like, I love what Microsoft is potentially doing, but I'm also worried about what it will do. I loved watching Netflix and all their original programming, but I remember at least a year ago reading an analysis of Netflix business structure and what they do to a lot of these shows after 2 seasons and being like, I don't really like that. That's not really a good thing. But that didn't mean I was suddenly anti-Netflix. I kept my Netflix subscription. I kept watching Netflix original programming. But when there was analysis of Netflix's business strategy and philosophy that came under fire and criticism, and people got really angry that shows were always canceled after 2 seasons, I started to change my thought process about what I thought about Netflix. So I can like Microsoft and enjoy their products and enjoy Game Pass while simultaneously being like, from a business analysis standpoint, I actually don't think this is very good for the gaming economy long term. But that gets sifted through and filtered through. You either love Xbox or hate Xbox. Like, nope. That's not the way I operate. Bungie said that, not Sony. Bungie stated that they want to remain autonomous and be able to publish their titles, also put them everywhere. No. Sony stated the thing about multi-platform. It's in one of their blogs. There was an official statement from a Sony spokesperson, Malcolm, that all future Bungie property would be multi-platform. That is 100% fact-checked. We checked on that. It wasn't just Bungie saying that. And to be honest, if Bungie came out and said that after the acquisition and it wasn't true, there'd be some serious consequences. You can't just come out and lie. Well, yeah, we can make all of our future property multi-platform. And Sony's like, no, you can't. You can't do that. Why would you buy a game on Game Pass? Makes no sense. Jerry, it was mind-boggling to me. I had people disagreeing with me about my Game Pass video being bad for the culture because people just don't buy games. It was staggering how many people, zero self-awareness, were like, it's great for me. I don't have to buy games. It's like, I couldn't believe it. First comment, third comment, by the 5th comment, I almost had a brain aneurysm. It's like, did you even listen to the short? It's like, I think it's great for me. I don't have to buy games. Yes, that's the problem. That's it. You are already becoming the problem. You think it's great to not buy games. It was mind-blowing. It was like, you're literally displaying the thing that I'm concerned about. It blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind. Yeah, Scorn this Friday. Isn't it great for you too? You're going to play Scorn this Friday? I've never said it's not great. I just moments ago said I use it. It's great. I used Netflix. Netflix was great. I had concerns about Netflix business strategy a year ago when I read a couple articles. I have concerns about Microsoft's business strategy. I'm not like a hypocrite just because I stayed a subscriber to Netflix and watched their programming. I'm some kind of hypocrite. Like, oh, you're not allowed to have concerns about their business strategies while consistently supporting the business. Of course I can do both. I can do both. Bungie stipulated in the acquisition part of the reason Microsoft did not show interest. Wait, say that again for me, Sophie. So did Bungie said Microsoft didn't show interest? Why? Because they wanted to stay multi-platform? We have some pretty big topics for tomorrow. We might not be able to play Scorn. We'll see. We might not be able to play Scorn. I'm just going to warn you. We could play it Friday night with Madam, because we're doing spooky games for October. Eugene says, I can't wait until we find out that a very popular game doesn't get a sequel because it didn't drive new subs. See, don't you guys see, like, having concerns about Game Pass is so multifaceted. Think about what Eugene just said. You don't think that's a possibility? You don't think Microsoft might conclude that? Hey, listen. Your game did not drive subs. We're not going to back a sequel. And then all the people that love that game are like, what? Why? We love that game. Yeah, well, people loved, certain shows on Netflix too. And those shows vanished into thin air when they weren't driving subs. They wanted full autonomy to not be forced to put anything all by any partner. No, that's disingenuous at best. What do you mean what's disingenuous at best? Yeah, Miguel's making a good point that I don't think he realizes maybe is a good point that supports what we're saying. Days Gone didn't do very good when it initially launched because it had bugs, and then it had a resurgence of popularity because of PS Plus. Oh, this is brilliant. Oh, this is good. Miguel, you just absolutely lobbed a softball here. Track with me on this one. This proves the axiom that if a game isn't successful on a subscription service or doesn't drive subs or revenue, it won't get renewed for a sequel. Track with this one. Days Gone was not as commercially successful as they wanted to see it be. It launched with lots of bugs. Reviews weren't that great. Then it sees a resurgence of popularity when what? It hits a subscription funnel. PS Plus. No one's buying it, but they're playing it. One of the guys that worked on it literally went on record of saying, if you like a game, effing buy it, because he saw the rise in popularity because of the sub funnel and thought, but that's not driving revenue. Then the game hits PC. The PC port's rock solid. Popularity rises. Request for sequel rises. And we find out that the sequel was denied. Why? Because it wasn't that commercially successful, and surprise for frickin' surprise, the sub-service of PlayStation did not drive enough revenue to justify the sequel, meaning the same thing could happen to all your precious games on Game Pass. Happened to a Sony property. I'm not being a Sony fanboy. Nuh-uh. That game had problems. That game didn't launch all that well. Heard it commercially. And it's showing up later. It's showing up later on a subscription service. Oh, everybody's playing it. So, who gives a frick? It wasn't driving revenue. Two different businesses, though. But, homie, the principle is, if it's not a revenue driver, it won't get renewed. I think your causality is inverted. I'm going to go to Discord for this. Oh, no. Zubair used the causality word. Yo, Dante with a $20 tip through Super Chat. This is a small token of appreciation for an informative and often entertaining gaming news channel. I've actually learned a lot since subscribing here. Bro, I got to tell you, your compliment means more than the $20. Thank you. We put a lot of work into this, and we've really crafted a show that we think is unique and enjoyable and entertaining, and I appreciate that response. I really do. We've worked really hard to craft a good show here, so thank you. Can become a revenue driver by being content in the subscription service, just being part of the catalog. Angry. I think it's very analogous. I think Game Pass is very analogous to Netflix. How do you drive subscribers? You drive subscribers with new first-party content. It was Netflix's strategy for a very long time. Microsoft, in no uncertain terms, has said the same thing. Their purchase of Activision Blizzard is to put first-party property on Game Pass. It's a wonderful analogy and comparison. So the conclusion or the prediction or the worry that if something isn't driving subscribers of Game Pass, that franchise, that game, any potential sequels or ongoing support will end, because that's what happened to Netflix shows when they stopped driving subscribers. It's a fair comparison. Gray God with a $10 tip. I want to say thanks for the daily streams, man. It perfectly lines up with my entire workday, so I'm consistently having a great time thanks to you. Much appreciated. Keep up the fantastic content. It means a lot when I see new names like Grey God and Dante saying that. It really does. It's been a long freaking road, man. We've been slaying it out, duking it out, and just in the trenches trying to drag a live stream to a respectable place on the platform, and I think we've done it. So thank you. I really do appreciate the compliments, the super chats, the members. Thank you. Listen, the people that are here respectfully disagreeing with me, Nunya, you called me Einstein. I think I can get over it. Those of you respectfully disagreeing with me, I love that you're here, and I hope you come back as often as you can because it makes for a great show. Thanks for getting in the ring, and thanks for sparring with me. Let's keep going. Detonator with 14 months. Thank you so much. That's a 14-month milestone. Great show today. Thank you. Welcome. Power Wash Simulator got massive because of Game Pass. Millions of people playing that game that never would have played it. Well, Power Wash Simulator actually went viral before Game Pass, so you need to be careful that you don't do, a chicken and egg situation. I actually think Game Pass did help Power Wash Simulator. I won't deny that, but that game had already gone viral because of a couple of YouTubers and clips. However, think of it from this perspective. You're looking through the wrong end of the telescope, Nunya. You're looking through the wrong end of the telescope. Great. It got tons of people playing Power Wash Simulator. That's awesome. What revenue did that generate? What revenue did that generate? Where's the report on the revenue it generated for Power Wash Simulator developer? Where's the revenue report on how many people picked up Game Pass because of Power Wash Simulator? All you're doing is talking about, well, it got more people playing it. Okay, where's the revenue? That would have been like Netflix saying, well, we invested all this money into Queen's Gambit, and look how many people watched it. And you know what executives would say? So the frick what? How much money did it generate? What's the ROI? What's the return on investment? How many subscribers did we get? You spent this much. What did we get back? You spent all that money making Queen's Gambit. What did we get? I don't care how many people watched it. I'm being a Netflix executive right now. I don't give a flying frick how many people watched it. I want to know how much money we got. Because if we're not making money, you have to cut it. We have a fiduciary duty to our shareholders, and if we don't increase margins, we're in trouble. Anything that is contrary to margins increasing dies. What revenue did that generate? You think that Microsoft didn't pay Power Wash Simulator dev more money for all the downloads and playtime they got? They would never go into business with Microsoft if they didn't. Oh, those runway lights. Homie. That's not revenue generation. They probably paid the Power Wash Simulator devs money. That's not revenue generation. That's money spent by Microsoft. What revenue did it generate? Meaning money from the consumers. That's how you generate revenue. Money doesn't appear. Where'd the money come from Microsoft? Like, oh, money. Here you go, Power Wash. Bro, think about what you're saying. I asked you the question, how much revenue did it generate? And you say, oh, you don't think they didn't spend money? Of course they gave the devs money. And good for the devs. They probably were like, oh, this is great. Now, when a game goes viral, that's not necessarily helpful, right? They could have made more money on the sales. But what money did it generate? I'm not saying that it didn't generate revenue. Understand the point that I'm making. Hypothetical. They write a fat check to Power Wash Simulator. Power Wash goes on Game Pass. Tons of people play Power Wash Simulator. let's say hypothetically it generates almost no revenue. It doesn't increase your subscribers on Game Pass. There's no causality. There's no impact measurably. And there's no microtransactions generated either if the game's not really set up. So in that hypothetical, Microsoft could look at that scenario and say, that didn't actually generate revenue for us. There was no ROI on the money that we gave to Power Wash Simulator. Therefore, we will not be doing that again with them. We will not be doing that with their sequel. If it's a first-party title, we will not be backing any further support, funding further support, or funding the sequel. Why? The ROI is not there. That's a very likely hypothetical. It happened with lots of Netflix first property. Zubair says, Days Gone isn't getting a renewal because it doesn't deserve one on its own merits. It did not represent a value that customers were willing to purchase. In a world without subs, few people bought it and few people would have played it. In a world with subs, few people bought it and many people played it. What the sub did is it allowed people to already establish they wouldn't pay for a game to play the game. Whether the subs played or not doesn't alter the fact that the game isn't a moneymaker. The people that played on the sub were not going to buy the game, or they would have already bought the game. But, Zubair, you're highlighting the flaw in the subservice. It doesn't require anybody to buy it. See, because you're highlighting the flaw in Game Pass because Days Gone came to PS Plus later. Game Pass puts games there day and date. So from the moment it launches, no one has to buy it that has Game Pass, right? That's one of the fatal flaws of Game Pass. I've continued to say that I think the PS Plus Premium trial ecosystem is a healthier ecosystem because I get the value from my subscription of trying a game and not having to spend any money on it. So if it sucks, I save money. If it's good, I spend money and have confidence in my purchase, and then it supports the dev. It creates a healthier ecosystem. So then, track with me here. A good game generates revenue, and it's measurably beneficial, and Sony could say, this company makes good games. Their game had this many trials, and it had a conversion rate of this %. Let's back them for a sequel. Let's invest in this property. Why? We made money on it. The ROI on it's healthy. What are you going to do on Game Pass? What are you going to do? You going to measure how long people played? There's no money coming in. They're just playing the game. We gave money to the Scorn developers. Scorn's on Game Pass. Scorn generates no revenue because most of the people are going to play it, and then there's no impetus or reason or push to buy it. So there's no direct one-to-one ROI on that property. How do you measure the money you can make from it? The only way to measure the money that you make from it is its impact on the subscriber base. Did you get more subscribers? I don't disagree with that. Trials are better. I'm pushing back against the idea that every sub player was a lost sale, which seems to be unspoken in what you said about DayZ. No. I might have misspoke or didn't make my position clear. Zubair, my position was twofold. Days Gone wasn't commercially successful, and a sudden increase in people liking and playing the game on the subservice wasn't convincing to Sony. That's the point I was making. So it didn't commercially move money in Days Gone, right? In Days Gone. I'm tracking with you. Days Gone wasn't that commercially successful when it launched, and a sudden spike in popularity and people playing it through a subscription service wasn't convincing. It wasn't a compelling business reason to back a sequel. So my conclusion was, if you put something on a subscription service on Game Pass and there's no measurable commercial impact from it, it being really popular on the subservice isn't exactly going to be a convincing reason to back the continuation of the product. Yeah, I didn't want to create a causal relationship. Yeah. Okay. That was my point. Is think of it this way. Let me rephrase it. Let's say that Scorn is really popular. No, let's go back to Power Wash Simulator. Power Wash Simulator is super popular and tons of people played it on Game Pass. But if there's no measurable revenue impact from Power Wash Simulator, all you have left is, well, a lot of people played it. I don't think that's a compelling enough reason to back it and continue to, let's imagine it's a first-party title. Well, then Microsoft's going to say, a lot of people played it, that's great, but there was no measurable impact of revenue. So why would we back it for a sequel? Think about how less impactful sequels are. Power Wash Simulator, yay! And it hits Game Pass, and everyone's excited, and maybe they get some Game Pass subscribers. Sequels will probably be less impactful. Why? A lot of people that played Power Wash Simulator 1 already have it on Game Pass. They're already in the Game Pass funnel. You need the people that aren't in the funnel to get in the funnel. Is a sequel going to be winsome to them? Maybe not. Probably not. That's a risk, is it not? That's that Netflix syndrome of after season 2, it's not impacting subscribers anymore. Cut it. That could happen to first-party property in the Game Pass ecosystem. That's what we're talking about. So track with me. I got to thank these Super Chats. TJ with a $10 tip through Super Chat. Discovered your channel last week, and I really enjoyed the streams. Amazing job. Keep up the good work, man. Thank you so much. And another 20 spot from Gray God. So generous. Thank you, Gray God. All right. Track with me here. Oh, man. What if they become victims of has to be new syndrome? Right? What's has to be new syndrome? Let me explain. Let's imagine that. I'm trying to think of an example that would play. Fallout. Okay, got one. Took me a second, but I got one. Let's imagine Fallout 5 is great, successful, and people like it, and tons of people play it. And unsurprisingly, Fallout 5 ends up on Game Pass. But Microsoft starts to measure and project and do market analysis, and they find that brand new titles and new IPs, when properly marketed, drives more subscriptions to Game Pass. Sequels do not. I think that's a possibility. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying it's a possibility. If that happens, your favorite titles could just start basically disappearing. They could say, we want your studio to work on a brand new IP, and then another new IP, and then another new IP, and then another new IP. Do you see what I'm saying? Where do we find your wish list? You use the wish list command. If you guys want to help support we got this Lego channel idea that we're going to do. It's also just a nice thing to send to me for my birthday next month. I fell back in love with Legos through my son's birthday and making him a TIE Fighter. So we're thinking of doing like a hobby channel where I would put together Lego sets and record it. We'll get like a second camera, and we have a bunch of sets on a wish list. If you want to kind of like kickstart that channel, feel free. We appreciate that. Gray God with another $20 tip. Holy moly. Few streams can keep my attention longer than an hour, and you kept it for 7 or more. If that doesn't show the great quality of the content you make, then I don't know what does. You really are blessing me, man, with really kind comments. Thank you. We've been streaming for 5.5 hours, actually. So if it's felt like 7, that might be a bad thing. Thank you so much. I do. I appreciate the comments very, very much, especially from folks who are newer. Like, that means a lot that you're like, I'm a new convert. This place is awesome. And you're very generous. Thank you. A new Skyrim will drive subs for sure. Right. Okay. So hear me out. In embedded titles that everyone knows, like another Elder Scrolls or another Fallout, those aren't the greatest examples. So forgive me, the examples aren't good. Let me try this a completely different way. Okay, let me try a completely different way. Let's say Redfall is a smash hit and everybody wants a sequel. It's not beyond the scope of reason and possibility that Microsoft might say, Redfall didn't really do a lot of revenue generation for us. It really wasn't a mover and a shaker. We don't want to do a sequel. We want that studio to work on another brand new IP. So it could start to turn into that Netflix new show, gone. New show, gone. Like, that could become a rhythmic reality on Game Pass. I'm not saying that it will. I'm just saying, as much as I like and benefit from Game Pass as a consumer, as an analyst, I see the risks. A $5 tip from Robert. Lono, Game Pass has to constantly reinvest to maintain subs. New growth is good, but they must account for sub retention with each new title. Yes, but so this is what happened with Netflix. Let me tell you guys a little story about Netflix. So Netflix had like a 3,000% subscriber growth from, I think, 2007 to 2021. Someone can fact check me on that, but it's some absurd number from, 2007 to 2020, like a 3,000% sub growth, right? And then they plateaued. What was the problem with the plateau? Because you might say, oh my gosh, if I had a consumer-based growth of 3,000%, holy moly, I don't care if I plateau. That's a lot of dadgum people. Well, hang on. Because once you hit that ceiling, where's the money coming from for reinvestment into new properties? Because it's very expensive. They were doing ROI measurements on the new shows and cutting them after seasons 2 in the midst of great growth. Really think about that. I want you to really think about that. Netflix was experiencing fantastic growth, and even in the midst of that growth, they were still saying the ROI on this show is no longer impactful. Cut it. It's too expensive. That was during really great growth. Does that make sense? So even if Microsoft's Game Pass model is working and it's growing, we have an analogous business model that was growing like crazy and was constantly killing titles because they stopped generating revenue and subs. That is a risk of the Game Pass model. That's not me being a hater. That's just basic market analysis. They could run into the same problem. Because Netflix shows can't sell themselves for their shows in DLC. They're two totally different mediums. Malcolm, you have to understand something. Callisto Protocol is skipping Game Pass for essentially what I'm outlining. You are correct. There are games that are a perfect fit for Game Pass, and they're usually going to be pretty heavily monetized because you get them in the funnel. This game's great. I can spend money on it. You couldn't spend money on The Queen's Gambit as a show. You're making a good point, but it only applies to certain games. There are many game types that are basically Queen's Gambit, like Callisto Protocol. Any game without microtransactions is taking a huge risk going on Game Pass. A huge risk. Because where's the money going to come from? Yes, Microsoft wrote a fat check. That's great. But Microsoft can't keep doing that forever. Microsoft can only keep writing fat checks if the money is coming in at a rate of reinvestment. Does that make sense? Eventually, that's, I don't want to make it sound like Microsoft's going to run out of money. Within the realm of the business mechanism, Microsoft might say, we're spending more than we're getting. Does that make sense? Microsoft has more than enough money to continue to subsidize Game Pass, but I think they'll reach a point where they'll say, we're dumping more money into titles to come onto Game Pass than we're getting back. They were axed because production went up and they didn't see new subs coming in. It's the same with video game sequels. Sequels aren't cheaper. Exactly. Look at the sequels that have been coming out recently. Seriously, think about the bigger picture here. Look at the trajectory of games and next gen. They got to be bigger. They got to be better. You got to expand. You need more people. You need better tech. That's more expensive. Horizon Forbidden West. Bigger team, more tech, more money, bigger budget. That money had to come from somewhere, didn't it? You have to do the same thing with every sequel. You can't just have a sequel stagnate or step back. Nolan with a 4-month milestone. This is the only YouTube channel I follow and actively listen to almost daily. I love the talks and I'm looking forward to what will happen in the future. Thank you. Whoop, sorry. The water. I think I need to start keeping I think I need a backup water bottle. cannot compare the mediums, totally different business models. With respect, as much as I just broke down how analogous Netflix is to Game Pass, for you to just dismiss it is a sign of insecurity, not intellectual breakdown. You're not intellectually breaking down why I can't compare them. You're just dismissing it, which I always feel like denouncement and dismissal is an insecurity. Like, you don't have a position to dismantle my comparison. Like, I think the comparison I've made to Netflix is so sound and logical and thoughtful. Simple dismissal is coming from insecurity. Logically break it down. Dismantle what I've said. Why can you not make comparisons between Game Pass and Netflix? They're so similar. Like, they're eerily similar. We need to buy up a bunch of great first parties to make Game Pass better. That's quite literally what Netflix did. They started investing in their own first party stuff. You think Microsoft hasn't looked into this when they decided to put their own first party games on there? It's the only gaming subscription that's growing there year by year. Oh my gosh. Okay, so the other side of this is what we talked about in the first half of the show, Malcolm. The reason that Microsoft's in a better position than Netflix is that Microsoft can sell all that great first party stuff on another platform, and Netflix couldn't. Does that make sense? So Netflix wasn't selling Queen's Gambit seasons on Amazon. That was the mistake Netflix made. So you're right. Microsoft probably has considered it, which is why they're going to continue to say this software is everywhere and it's a great perk for Game Pass. It's a double whammy. It's a double whammy. They basically get to put it onto their Game Pass and bolster it and then sell it elsewhere so they can make ROI on the product. So it's not so unidimensional. See, you're starting to work there, Malcolm. You're working backwards to realize, oh yeah, Microsoft's strategy is so much bigger than their own platform. Right? You're getting there. You're working backwards to it. I think you're almost there. Like, you're starting to realize, like, oh yeah, they're not going to be like Netflix. They have a much bigger strategy than what Netflix did. You're making my point. Netflix can't sell anything, so their markers for success aren't one-to-one. But I'm not making your point. I'm making my point. Like, earlier in the stream, I was saying that, like, Microsoft's strategy is so much bigger than Game Pass and Xbox. And we just got there through my analogy to Netflix. Like, you're coming on my team if you're starting to see that Microsoft is doing more with their property than putting it on Game Pass. The comparison stops at the point of infrastructure. Netflix plays bucket loads to AWS. Microsoft's own server farms. There's no cost there. Microsoft is not in the industry to help Sony sell more consoles. You're not here, Sadia. They're absolutely competing with Sony. Not their primary concern, but they are competing with Sony. I mean, Phil Spencer said he doesn't see them as their competition. He sees Google and Amazon as their competition because he's speaking in the realm of, you know, the cloud-based solutions and, you know, the other things that those companies are trying to get into. To be fair, Days Gone Studio hadn't released a non-handheld game in over 20 years, and when they asked for more time, they were denied by Sony. Then after 2 months of release, Sony decided to cut the price of the game almost 50%. So in my opinion, Days Gone was doomed from the start. I mean, we don't need to go down and slice up exactly what led to Days Gone's struggles, right? That's not a concern. That's not my concern. We were using it as an example of a game that wasn't commercially successful, and a bunch of people playing it on a subscription service didn't convince Sony that, like, oh yeah, we should give this game a sequel. Like, I was pushing back on the notion that if a bunch of people play the game, then that's a thumbs up. Right? I had somebody citing Power Wash Simulator, and I was like, a bunch of people playing Power Wash Simulator doesn't equal revenue generation. Does that make sense? Like, that's why I was citing Days Gone. Days Gone struggled commercially, and then it saw a huge turn on a subscription service. That huge turn and that big bump didn't suddenly translate into, oh, let's support this. Like allergy season. My freaking nose is driving me crazy. I'm checking on something. Okay. Using Netflix to why Microsoft may have a problem and they don't have the same business model. How does that make sense? No. See, you can't take Microsoft's bigger strategy to make money with the property on Sony to defend the ecosystem of Game Pass. Does that make sense? The ecosystem of Game Pass could still lead to something that's unhealthy. And it could still lead them to say, this property isn't moving Game Pass numbers. Oh, but it's sold really great on PlayStation. Okay, that's fine. We still have a vested interest in driving sub numbers. Like, the actual ecosystem of Game Pass is what I think could lead to being unhealthy, and they'll re-examine it. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they borrow from Sony and they do the game trials thing. Wouldn't surprise me at all. It would lead to more revenue. East Coast with a $5 tip. Why wouldn't Microsoft want more PlayStations? It's more Azure money by truckloads for Sony infrastructure, storefront housing, and cloud gaming. Well, so Microsoft actually argued that in their response to the CMA. They actually argued that. They said that they want the industry to be super healthy because it benefits their cloud-based solutions. They actually said that. Yep. So they're on the same page that you're on. They're on the exact same page. You're going to die on this hill. The business models are completely different. The business model of Game Pass and Netflix are not completely different. That's false. They're similar. And in their similarities, there are potential weaknesses. To deny that is ignorant. That's just ignorant. The Netflix business model and the Game Pass business model are very similar. And in their similarities, there are also potential weaknesses. It's just such a sign of insecurity that I point that out, and it's like, no, they're not. They're completely different. Like, stop being so insecure about it. It's just an observation. It's just a market analysis observation to say it's a real similar strategy. They're not one-to-one. So when I say they're similar, you think that's a comeback? It's a non sequitur. That doesn't logically follow as a comeback. They're similar. They're not one-to-one. Okay, I didn't say they're one-to-one. From where I come from, similar doesn't mean one-to-one. It means similar. It means there are varying degrees of coalescence or something like it. It's an analogy. I've said many times, they're analogous to each other. They're not one-to-one. I've not once tried to assert they're one-to-one. In their similarities, I believe there are weaknesses. I'm not the only person to see inherent weaknesses with subscription model services. You're taking this way too seriously, Lamau. So now it's funny and a joke because why? You're not doing a good job arguing? Like, I'm not the only one to observe that subscription model has risks. There are really big wigs in the industry that don't think the subscription model is sustainable. I'm not the only one that thinks this. It's basic business assessment. You would say they've hit their ceiling on subscribers. How do you invest more money into the value and quality? Where's it going to come from? Because you've now hit you've hit a plateau of subscribers. So maintaining the subscribers is great, but that doesn't create new revenue. It maintains existing revenue funnels. So the business model has inherent risks. Like, I don't know, every business model has inherent risks. The business models are similar, the industries are not. That's the biggest factor between Game Pass and Netflix. There are way more good games than there are movies and TV. Oh, see that? No. There's so much shovelware on Game Pass, bro. There's so much on there that no one touches. It hurts me how similar they are. You know the other problem with subscription-based services? There's a limit. So Netflix tried to solve this problem by creating algorithms of prediction of what you might watch. And then they had that thing of like, surprise me. Like, just show me something. Why? Because people went through choice paralysis. There was too much to choose from. There was too much to watch. Go to Game Pass, click on how much is there, and tell me it's not very similar to the choice paralysis that sometimes you experience on Netflix. It's very similar. That is another inherent risk of subscription model. How do you get people in the funnel? Throw as much value at them as they can. Oh my gosh, all these games. They get in the funnel, experience paralysis, and then there's a value degradation in their mind of, I don't really play anything on here anymore. Doesn't matter how many great games or good shows or whatever is in the funnel. It's another inherent risk of subscription model. The games start to feel very throwaway. The games start to feel very transient. It's like, yeah, I play that game for an hour. There'll be new games in a month. Oh yeah, there's always new games. They become very transient. They become very disposable. Microsoft just destroyed that narrative about being unsustainable with their recent financial report. $2.9 billion in a single year is ridiculous, especially when AAA games cost $200 million. You know what's funny is you sound like somebody looking at Netflix reports a long time ago, because Netflix was posting really great reports and really great billions, and then they plateaued, and then the bottom fell out. It's an inherent weakness to the subscription model. You cannot have infinite growth. An infinitude of growth is impossible, which means you have to come up with a sustainable way to keep it going beyond the plateau. Netflix didn't. So the question would be, what's Microsoft's solution for those inherent weaknesses? If you're always going to be subsidizing Game Pass with selling first-party property on Sony, that doesn't sound like a great business model. That sounds like a limping horse. Your argument is weak. That's an assertion. Make your own argument. Not making an argument is weak and also cowardice. So, I don't know. Get on the landscape or don't talk. 11 months from Striker 1. Glad to be here. Thank you. And it's tier 2. Welcome back in. They never said any of that $2.9 billion was profit. Yeah. A lot of the times Paul's in here being pro Microsoft, and he's pointing out something very, very important. $2.9 billion is revenue. It doesn't necessarily mean it's profit. The $2.9 billion represents 18% of the Xbox Gaming division's revenue, not profit, revenue. That's 20%, roughly 20% of the revenue generation of the fiscal year was Game Pass. That sounds pretty good. What are you going to do? Again, what are you going to do when you plateau? They did $2.9 billion just on Game Pass. Comparing it to that's why comparing it to Netflix is ridiculous. Should I tell him, Eugene? Should I show him, Eugene? Should I show him? They did $2.9 billion comparing Comparing it to Netflix is ridiculous. Bro. Oh, man. All right, you ready? So right here, we're looking at a chart of annual revenue of Netflix, tracking their growth year to year. And what's your 2.9 billion? Yeah, so Netflix generated roughly that down in here, down in this window. Okay. So their annual revenue for 2011 was close to that, right? Like 3.2 billion. Now, if you keep going up, the number gets bigger. So hold on to your hat. You might want to sit down. You keep going up. Up here, we see 31 billion, 10 times what Game Pass did. Okay. And even with that level of growth, the bottom fell out. So, yes, comparing it to Game Pass is legitimate. So take your 2.9 billion and you're 10 years behind Netflix. The comparison's fair, bro. It's a fair comparison. I'm completely on your side, I really am, but all the Microsoft bashing hurts. But I'm not bashing Microsoft. I am simply trying to establish that I like Game Pass and benefit from it, but I have concerns about the business philosophy. I loved Netflix when I heard it was 2 years ago and then last year. There was growing concern about the strategy of Netflix and the first-party content constantly getting canceled. I still loved Netflix and stayed with Netflix, but I grew concerned too. Do you want to know how I felt watching Queen's Gambit? I felt torn. This is great. What if it never comes back? Because Netflix has shown a pattern of like inherent first-party weakness of constantly canceling shows because they don't generate new subs. So yes, while I enjoy Game Pass and why I'm looking forward to lots of Microsoft property in the future, my gosh, what if the same thing happens to them? Seems like an inherent weakness of the subscription model. That's not bashing. You like to drop the hammer on Microsoft? No, I don't. Like, the beginning of this stream, I talked about how everything Microsoft said yesterday, it makes contextual sense because we looked at what the UK said. And I said some of Microsoft's pushback is legitimate. I said that some of their pushback on CMA's observations is legitimate. Number one, Microsoft's investment in infrastructure and the industry flourishing is helpful for them for Azure and cloud services. I thought that was a great pushback from Microsoft. They don't want to hurt the industry because it benefits their cloud services, which is they make the most money off that. Oh, you meant to put a kappa. I was like, man, I'm not bashing at all. Did you buy Microsoft transactions, Netflix? Did you also buy other games on Netflix? What? I'm not sure what you're saying. I never spent beyond my subscription on Netflix, and I know this is going to shock you. This is going to be hard to take. I've not bought a single game on Game Pass. Oh, and the review. You did say you want to stay on topic with other topics, but went off topic with this one for like an hour already. Are you actually in here complaining that I've engaged your discussion points and your dialogue with me? Like, How many skill points have you spent in self-awareness in the totality of your life? I'm engaging with you about this. And the Xbox Activision deal and CMA's concern over Microsoft's foothold in the market, that's not related to Game Pass as a business strategy? That's not... I don't understand. This rabbit hole is contextual to the discussion. We're not talking about some other random game. We're talking about Microsoft's business strategy, which is related to their strategy of the buy of Activision Blizzard and establishing a foothold in the market. This is all contextually relevant. Now you're slinging insults? How am I slinging insults? You seem to lack in self-awareness. I engage in you in a discussion and an argument and a dialogue for the past 45 minutes to an hour, and then you poke fun at the fact that I'm doing that? Am I not right? No. We haven't mentioned the CMA in at least an hour. That's okay. The title is Xbox Activision Deal. Underneath the umbrella of the CMA's concerns is Microsoft's business strategy for growth. If you don't think Microsoft's business strategy for growth with Game Pass is not inherently linked to the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, then where are you? Did you fall down and bonk your head? The reason we got on the Game Pass discussion was because we talked about how the acquisition is leading to bolstering Game Pass value, but that's really difficult to do for an infinitude. So if they're constantly having to make back that money by selling the property over on PlayStation, Game Pass might not be a sound ecosystem. That's how it's relevant. Have you ever seen the movie where Chili Palmer says, "I'm the one telling you how it is"? What do you mean? This is not on topic, no matter how you slice it. It is on topic. We literally went from talking about how Microsoft is buying up all this property to put it on Game Pass. That's not sustainable forever, because how do you measure ROI on those first-party properties? All that first-party property might go away because, analogous to Netflix, all their first-party property wasn't backed after Season 2 because it wasn't generating subs. That's how it's relevant. Your inability to see the relevancy is proving that I shouldn't be talking to you. You're really struggling. It's 100% relevant. How did I start this? I'm not saying you started it. I'm saying we went down this rabbit hole because it's totally relevant. I express concern that, like, listen, if all this property under Blizzard Activision gets purchased and gets treated with first-party love on Game Pass, what if it ends up like all the first-party shows on Netflix? That's what got us here. It's 100% relevant. Because this acquisition, which is the topic, this acquisition is potentially very tectonic to the industry. That'd be pretty tectonic to the industry if in 10 years, a lot of these franchises vanish into thin air because they weren't driving Game Pass numbers. Right? We're on topic. The whole Game Pass analogy to Netflix is 100% relevant to the topic of the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. 100%. It's not off topic. I have two people making the observation that I always think I'm right. I'm going to blow your mind. So do you. Do you walk around and think that you're wrong about things? Your personal beliefs, your philosophical beliefs, political beliefs, your beliefs about video games? You walk around and think you're wrong? Are you drenched in that level of humility that you just don't think you're right about things? You think you're right about everything too. It's called the human condition. You think you're on some higher plane of existence, what, you don't think you're right about things? Yeah, I agree, Malcolm. I've said numerous times today, I think this deal is going to go through. I think it's going to go through slower than Microsoft wants it. Lono's been plenty wrong, especially about Spider-Man. I am actually very quick to admit when I've been wrong, and I 100% did that. I was like, I was wrong about Spider-Man. I thought Spider-Man was never going to go to PC, and it did. I was like, holy crap. That was one of the times I was glad to be wrong. I was like, I'm glad to be wrong about that. Hang on, my wife just sent me something. What is this? Oh, get them. Sweet habanero slim pickles. Get them. She's shopping. She's shopping. Hang on, I'm checking on something. Okay. Somebody asked for the wish list earlier. I wanted to make sure I shouted them out if they bought anything. If you guys ever buy any of the Lego sets off the wish list, let me know. We want to thank you and shout you out, because we'll also probably make sure and mention you in those videos when we make them. You were wrong about COD multiplayer. You don't even play it like a hardcore does. Well, if I wake up one day and care what somebody named COD Lover 93 Love thinks about me, that'll be a sad day. You know? I think that'll be the day that I need to hang it up. Never forget Farmhand. That's right. Never forget Farmhand. Oh, we got to go to members. We got 5 minutes. You guys have 5 minutes. Listen, this has been a fantastic discussion. If you've debated me, disagreed with me, this has been great. Getting in the ring with me and debating and discussing things with me makes the streams go so fast that I didn't even realize what time that it was. Let me schedule the members only stream. Right now is a great time to become a member or gift a member, because that will bring you into the members only stream. You can't come with us if you're not a member, so consider clicking join, throwing $5 on the channel, or if you feel like it, bless some people with membership right now. Operation Gray Name. Turn those gray names into green names. Let's do it. Let's do it. I'm setting up the redirect right now. I was not paying attention. This has been an absolute blast, by the way. It has been an absolute blast. Even if you've gotten in the ring and gone toe-to-toe with me and gotten me wound up and I made faces and did zoom-ins, that's fun for me, right? That's fun for me. You've been on Top Chat this whole time. Hey, stick around. Somebody might gift members. Don't go anywhere yet. Hold for about 2 minutes. Some of these homies might start blessing the chat with gifted members. Don't leave yet. You might get one. You know? You might get one. You might get rewarded for your loyalty. Your brain's melted from today's stream. Oh, Wheezy. It was fun. Come on. It was fun, Wheeze. I had fun. Don't leave yet, you dum-dum. Oh, man. We get real nasty here. Sometimes I call people dum-dums. Gift to Nunya and Malcolm. I actually probably would gift to both of them. Like, you know, the worst thing one of them said was, what? They call me Einstein? That's fine. I'm a big boy. I can take it. It's fun drilling a frontal lobe and pouring in kerosene. Oh, stop, Wheeze. Stop. I had fun. Hey, Fonzo gifted some members. Brad, Sword Tower. Oh, they're going slow. There they go. There they go. Chris and Caleb. That's all of them. Oh, Vendetta's going to do 5. Oh, my gosh. All right, don't do any more. Don't do any more. It's doing that slow thing. Okay, all 5 went for the first, and all 5 went for the second. Okay, they're going fast. Sony Nakamura, you got one. Jint, Brad Atwood, BB, Back in Time, and Cridge91. There we go. We just grabbed 10 of you. That means you can come to members only. I thought they were going slow. Sorry, they went quick. That first one was weird, but the next 5 went quick. Okay, cool. I enjoy your chat and discussions. Well, I appreciate it, Malcolm. Thanks for contributing. Thanks for disagreeing. Thanks for not resorting to insults and being gross, because so many people do that, and you didn't, and I appreciate it. It makes everything go better. Okay, if you don't want to ride the redirect, I'm going to put the link in chat, okay? Redirect can be a little bit funky, so if you'd rather just click the link to go to the next stream, do that. What's good, feed? We're going to members, everybody. We're going to members only. Click join to become a member, or maybe be here as often as you can and grab a gifted member one of these days. Thanks so much for clicking on this. Another members-only stream to end the day. This one might be a little bit shorter than some of our others. We had really long streams today. Check out the VODs discussing latest Starfield news, and we also did one about the Xbox Activision deal, so check those out. If you're a new member or got gifted member, congratulations. Check the link below in the description of all my videos if you want to get into my members-only Discord so you don't miss out on members-only content, especially Friday nights with my wife. They're a blast. Every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Try to be here if you can. We have an absolute blast. I'm going to end the previous stream and bring everybody over. We are done talking about that